And we are live once again for GRAPPL FPL. I'm Benno. JP's back. Must mean Arsenal had a good week.
They did, mate. Not talking about the draft team. That's being completely left out of the equation at the moment. But yeah,
Talking
very
about
good
actual
week.
football.
Hello.
Good to have you back, mate. Back on
Cheers,
here,
mate.
back on here to talk some FPL. You know, typical FPL player, mate. When it's a good week, you turn up. When it's a bad week, disappear. I think that's the way to do these things.
So, I mean, next week is all depending. Because I'm going to Arsenal Fulham on Saturday, so I'm thinking to go see real football, Benno. Yeah.
Oh, really? Real players,
real players, and everything. It's mental. But I get to judge Big Mitro in the flesh. We're gonna test this XG thing to the absolute hilt during this. Lives or dies by this weekend, Chris.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Right, so we've got Mr. XG, Chris here again. Chris, you're on a wild card like me.
I am.
That's
it. All the stats be damned. Thrown them out the window. Starting over again. All my heighty plans of waiting until week 8 or 9 after the international break when there's data to do the wild card. No, I was like, the original plans haven't worked. I need to reset and go again. So
that's what I'm feeling. I'm basically going to wait till we see your wild card reveal and be like, yeah, my team's basically the same. I had a horrible time this week putting this wild card together. I saw Garrett's last week and was jealous. Kind of hit the button on Saturday, felt really confident about it. And then it got to like Monday, got to Tuesday, and I like completely different teams each days. And then I got to Wednesday and looked at my team and I was like, this is basically my team from last week with like 3 transfers. Like I could have just taken an 8-point hit and I'd have been fine. But I'm back around to having like something a bit refreshed. So
we'll get into it. We'll get into it in a bit. But if I'd have made the transfers when I had 2 free transfers last week that I was thinking of, I wouldn't have needed to wild card really. But Celebi.
Well, braver than us to haven't made us a wild card last week. It's GRAPPL Gareth here to survey the damage, mate. How are you?
All right, it's not too bad. It's kind of a weight off my shoulders having the wild card done and gone. I quite like it when you've like you've played the chip and then you know that it's not there hovering in the background. You've made your decisions and you've just got to live and die by them now, haven't you? And hang on for that extra one at Christmas.
It's like having a 20 quid note burning in your pocket, and you're just walking around. And you're like, oh, I could just spend this 20 quid. It's like having an extra wild card. You're just like, I could just use this wild card. It doesn't matter.
It's the stress, like you said there.
That explains
the various versions of it. You're literally making 15 versions of your team in the week that you've played it, and then invariably 4 of the versions that you have in your head that you don't go with would have been fucking miles better than the one that you did do. But that's what you got to do. All the fun of the fair.
At the start of every season. At the start of every season, it's like, well, I had him, and I had him, and I had him. You had everyone at some point. Doesn't mean anything. Everyone had everyone. That's who you'd end up with. But yeah, I mean, I was going to say you're brave for coming on, Gareth, but there's Mr. Chips himself, Andy Hoggins, fresh off a free hit. I'm sure it went swimmingly, mate. Triple-digit points.
Well, to be honest, the free hit didn't work as well as the wild card. And I've got a bench boost and a triple captain burning a hole in my pocket. So.
What's this week then? Triple captain?
No, I think maybe bench boost, but I've had a work. No, I have had a workaround to what I am planning in the next couple of weeks. So it's looking good on paper, well on my phone. But,
not on paper like Chris.
No, I was going to say you need a proper notepad, and then you'll be well away.
You still going to the pub and doing these notes, Chris? Is this still the tradition, or now that you're actually watching football games, has it changed?
It's fairly similar. I probably I have like my satchel bag that I carry with me most times. It's just in there. So if I pop in a pub somewhere and listen to a podcast or whatever, I'll just doodle some things away while I think about it. Or if somebody says something on a podcast, I'll just write it down and then I'll have it there because there's so much information that just pops out in different podcasts and stuff that you listen to. There's no way you're going to retain it all. So I'll just be like, I'll just look at the note and it would just say something like, Bournemouth concede a lot of goals from the right-hand side or something like that. I'd be like, all right, who plays on the right for whoever they're playing or something stupid like that.
I've just got visions of you sat there in the pub with like Post-it notes all over your head.
That's my work desk, to be fair, yeah.
I've literally just, it's been playing Moneyball for me this week. Like, it's just been, I don't know if you found the same, Chris, it's just price changes. Like, honest to God, when I show you my team in a bit, like right now, it's not my team I'm going with, but everybody in my squad is somebody who's gone up 0.1 million. Like everybody, because I'm just collecting players I might get just on the off chance they're gonna go up. But I know that happens pretty much every season, but I've never seen a season like it for that. Like,
no, it feels like the market.
Basically, if I went with the players I've got now, I'd have like $1.5 million extra money.
Yeah,
in theory.
Yeah, I was gonna say
real money, can't spend it. Like money, but,
my team value's up to 100.6, which is quite a fairly decent jump in 4 weeks, particularly if I've only made one transfer going into this wild card. It's but the market does seem a lot more volatile this year than it has done previously. Things like the Footy Fix app, where it's telling you what's the predicted up and downs are, that seems fairly good to have, so that at least you can try and jump ahead of the changes. But like you say, like it can get to a end of the Saturday like 3 o'clock kickoffs, and you'll already be getting notifications of Saka's on like 90% chance of changing price tonight because he didn't score in the game or whatever.
I think Martinelli and Jesus, obviously they got Fulham this weekend. It's like as soon as they do something good in that game, it raise up another 0.1 and 0.2. Like Martinelli's gone up, and he's 6.4 now.
6.4
from 6. It shows what what a signing he's been for people who've had him since week 1 instead of like Saka, for instance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, time ran out for me on Saka, I think, which will mean he's undoubtedly ready to haul this weekend. But it was. I think with the amount of 8 million mids in there, I don't think you can afford to be on one that's not returning. Often enough at the minute. So
I saw one of the I don't know who it was, one of the FPL content creators who was like, I wouldn't do it, but like I've generally, because I think they had 2 transfers, but had a hole in the pocket. And it was like they could literally sell Trent, let his price go down, and then just buy him back and make one of a million.
Yeah,
I saw that. I can't remember who said that now. But they were like, it was somebody on a dual stream, so I don't think it'd have been FPL Andy, but yeah, they were like, I could sell him and buy him back just to make money. But I don't know. I mean, the money had obviously become important later on, sort of thing. So could be worth it. But I think if you can build your money up this until the mid-season break, then obviously you're going to be in a much more beneficial position. Like somebody that's on like 104 million or whatever.
Yeah,
it's going to
be.
That's
what I'm telling myself.
Yeah,
it's like JP with his, JP's version of Moneyball. Andy's saying here, JP, apparently there's a lot of hooligans in the GRAPPL League. Like, how many teams you can
it was only one of me. There is obviously the elephant, the brother-shaped elephant in the room in terms of my brother Pat, who's 3rd in the GRAPPL League at the minute. Didn't have a good week. And when we had our chat on Monday, he weren't happy. He was really but at the same time, he despises Liverpool, which is something I didn't really kind of ever take into account. I don't know, him and my sister are scarred by the early to mid 80s of Liverpool's dominance, I think, so they can't let that go. So Pat's having a really good year, and that's my gap. That's I don't know about you lads, that's the battle I'm in. I know Benno and Gareth, you like to have a bit of a ding dong, and it'll start getting tasty.
I do. It's just me. In my head, Gareth, to be fair.
I want to win everything, or I'm not asked. I'm all about trying to win the entire thing.
Yeah,
number one.
And then my brother, he is. He's a PJ. He is. He's Patrick Joseph, believe it or not.
For fuck's sake.
Mate, my parents weren't rocket scientists, all right? They grew up in fucking farms in the middle of nowhere. They had no idea. Didn't think about that shit.
Please tell me you've got a cousin, Duncan.
Oh, I wish.
Duncan Houlihan.
Mate, that'd be awesome. And my son's in it, and he's only 7 points behind me. He's like joint 31st in the GRAPPL League. That can't happen. That's like Spurs winning the league type stuff. I'm like, I let that kid win a lot of stuff when he was little, but that's over with now. I'm not playing anymore. So yeah, I'm involved in these kind of family conflicts, basically. So
it's the only way to play it. We've got like a work league.
That bloke you hate.
Yeah, and it's the same as the story with me and Garrett. Like in my head, me and him have got this like storied rivalry going year on year because he's the other person in the work league who actually pays attention, but he doesn't care what I'm doing. He's not paying any attention to my team. Meanwhile, I'm looking at him going, "Okay, he transferred James in this week, so what can I do to one-up him next week?" Like he's literally living rent-free in my head. Rest of the league's like all these plus teams where it's like they make one transfer in game week 1 and then just forget about it for the rest of the year, but. Yeah, it gets personal, you know.
I've definitely got that work opponent, and then it was like music to my ears there when somebody said I wasn't in the office, and someone said to me like, "Oh, he was in a foul mood the other day because you got Martinelli like on the draft thing," and like I was
like, he's thinking about you too.
Yeah, I was going to say, in your head, mate,
rent free.
It's good to know, but yeah, I was going to say, obviously, we're streaming live on Twitch again. We're also on the GRAPPL YouTube, and yeah, apparently iTunes have authenticated us, JP. Finally, I don't know what the hold up was, but we've been allowed in. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify. I don't know why anyone would listen to an audio version of this.
That's everything we do now. We're on iTunes.
I think so. Yeah, it's in
retiring now. Then 2004 me would be ecstatic at the news.
I don't know if we've had any reviews yet, but if we get any of them, that'd be great. We're on Spotify as well. When on the Google Chrome and found us on there, we do show up.
Not that NXT UK wrestler crowd find out about it, then we're done for the
reviews. We'll get reviews like the Enfield trampoline park. Yeah, that's probably
we will.
Probably cool. I listened to last week. Oh, go on, Chris.
I was just going to say we're doing a Twitter live Spaces next, like all the other FPL content.
Yeah.
Why is that a thing all of a sudden? I don't understand. It's like, I don't know. It's a podcast just for the people who are on it. I don't really get what's.
I think it's
really
if it's like a deadline stream sort of thing, and you can just kind of, I guess, where we'd have people call in onto StreamYard, you can just like unmute somebody. They can ask a question, you can mute them, answer the question, move on to the next person. So it's they sound awful. Yeah, it sounds awful when you listen to one. Yeah, it's just. But yeah, it seems to be the most useful. It seems to be the most useful use of the space that I've seen. So
better than Gabe Sapolsky trying to sell people on Bitcoin or David Dixon. Gonna be the latest news. I remember Will saying it at work. So I remember when Will tried to start one. What was that? Was that an AW pay-per-view? I think, and it was just on his own.
And it still went on for 2 hours talking.
Well, he might be joining us later, Will, to talk through his draft.
To gloat over his victory.
Yeah, there you go. Come on this week, but obviously missing this week. Jamesy is red flagged. I believe he's not too well, not COVID. He tells me, but obviously we wish Jamesy well. Hopefully we'll get him back on here next week. Might even show his team on the screen while he's not here, just to rub it in a little bit further. But yeah, we'll go through our teams. We'll talk the fixtures. We'll talk a little bit about. So obviously there's 2 game weeks coming up. We've got the midweek. We've got the weekend game week coming up for game week 4, and then the midweek game week 5, and then game week 6 coming right on the back of that next week as well. We were was it you, Chris, trying to explain that to Matty exactly how that works? It's not a double, but there's a lot.
Yeah, it's not a double, but by this time next week we'll have done 3 games or whatever.
Yeah. The amount of times I've started typing a reply to Matty to try and explain various elements of either normal FPL or draft, and then just got like 3 lines into it and gone, nah, fuck it, and just deleted it. just like, too complex.
I'm mainly impressed he's still doing his team. Like, he's doing well so far. We will definitely get him on here at some point to talk it through. But yeah, that's it. Explaining FPL to normies never works. It is what you either get it or you don't you? But
I knew we were on the right. I knew we were on the right track when he was upping it to 20 notes for the best
for the money. He hasn't paid, by the way. Everyone else has sent the money over. Matty, nope. I'm expecting us to get up. Actually, saying that you haven't either, but I don't.
Neither have I, mate.
Neither have I.
You just wanted to kick Matty. Sorry, I've spoiled it.
Just turns out we're playing for just Matty's 20 quid, no one else's.
In pound coins.
Collect in person.
Oh yeah, Chris Elliott saying here because that's his confusion by running Champions League. Yeah, that was the other subject this week, wasn't it? That and obviously with the World Cup one coming as well. I'm sitting out of those. I'm not doing them. I'll be taking the time off.
Another World Cup, another World Cup fantasy league. Not down.
I think I could do a World Cup one, probably not a Champions League one.
No, there's too much about the Champions League I could care less about. Yeah. And it's always silly at the start. There's always daft results that will ruin your week. Rather like this week, actually.
It's like, I'm hanging on a player from Ludogorets or something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
I always think the World Cup ones are a bit daft because it's like it's great at the early stages, isn't it? And then you're starting to changing your team every day is a lot of fun. But then once you get to the semis and final, it's like you got 7 players from one team and 6 from the other in your squad, and it's just it feels a bit pointless, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes it more interesting as we go. So maybe there'll be a GRAPPL World Cup league. We could do that. We could extend the brand. What do you think, Gareth?
Keeps you interested for Turkey, Iran, or something like that. The old days when you've just transferred in Alpay or something like that, and he bags.
Alpay, bloody hell!
It'd be like you say, it'd be great crack for those group stages. When I'm losing it because my knowledge of watching A League may finally pay off.
Well, there was an Iranian guy that used to play for Charlton up front or something. You'd be he might get a shot this year and just stick him in.
That is literally how the World Cup ones work. It's I know his name. He was 4 million in FPL and apparently plays for Denmark. Sound, I'll get him in. That's just how it goes. It doesn't matter. He's never going to get a game. I know his name. Well, we'll go through our teams, like I say, for last week before we get into our future plans. And like I say, we go a little bit wild card crazy this week. But yeah, first up as we go through the teams. Team Graps and Claps. Andy, you were on a you were on a free hit. How'd it go, mate?
Graps and chips.
Yeah.
You just should rename
Graps
that.
and chips, yeah, should change it to that. Oh. Defense did me over, I think, here. Obviously, Man City against Newcastle. You think, City generally have a good record at St James's Park, and then, bloody hell, 3-1 down, weren't they?
Mm.
And then obviously going back to 3-3, that's all went out the window with Edison. But you've got to keep him in. I think he's a better option than Alisson or even Mendy at the moment. Reece James, I stuck him in after his worldie of a 15-minute performance at wing back on that Tottenham game. I thought, he'll do well against Leeds. Bugger all. Cucurella, the IWC pick for last week. Another dog turd return there against Leeds. Did you think easily Chelsea, maybe 2 or 3-0 against Leeds? They were absolutely all over the show against them. Cancelo, he's one I've actually got rid of for this week. But I'm tinkering around with swapping. Like I've kept Alexander Arnold in, sort of done like swapping around, just to bring Ivan Toney in permanently. So Martinelli, he's been what a player that man is. He's like the FPL star man at the moment. Jesse Lingard, I expected more from him against Everton. Maybe a goal, but he got like a clean sheet point. But yeah, is what it is. Salah
still played for United, to be honest. Didn't realise he played for.
Yeah. to be honest, he actually could have got into the Man United team on Monday evening, like from what the options he had up front. Salah, he got that goal, thankfully. He's done all right, but as I've said for the last few weeks, he's just cancelling each other out with Salah. Bukayo Saka, shit.
I mean, that's harsh, mate. He was very good against Bournemouth, but I see your point.
Absolute waste of 8 million. I should have kept with Jarrod Bowen, but then again, Jarrod Bowen's a load of rubbish. But thankfully, I'm sticking good old Wilfred Zaha from now on. He's going in. The person who I've been tipping for weeks. Ivan Toney. Oh, bloody hell. I let out a fist of joy when he scored that disallowed goal in the Dundee Arm.
From an FPL point of view, like Tony versus Mitro was basically it was like a big 6-man tag with 2-star wrestlers. I know Omega on one team, the other.
But he's done bloody well up to now, hasn't he? I think it's 9 and 8 and an 8 he's got in 3 games. So he's gone in my team for this week.
More points than Haaland.
You are.
More points than Haaland, Tony.
More points than Haaland. Yeah, you've got him, Gareth. Good choice there, mate. Harry Kane, I stuck instead of Haaland last week. I think they both got the same points. That Tottenham game, when I was following it, like from tube to bus and on a walk to our hotel, it just felt like Wolves shot on goal. They had like 12 shots in the first 45 minutes. And you're thinking, what's going on here? It's expected Spurs had like thumped these, and I think it ended up 1-0, 2-0 in the end.
Yeah, 1-0.
1-0. We've got with Perisic, who everyone were umming and ahhing to put in last week. Jesus, yeah, he's a legend at the moment. Thank God I've stuck with him. I will say that he's staying in for this week against Fulham. Bench at the moment, Ward. I'm probably going to do a bit of tinkering around with him
isn't this your free hit though? So so
it's my free hit. So like going back to my old team, I did have like Cancelo in, Bowen in, and so I took. I'm thinking of taking Ward out in a couple of weeks for Dean Henderson. So when I can use £500,000 from Trent back to Cancelo. And then,
well, I was going to ask about like going with the free hit for this one for game week 3. Did you go wildly different from your regular team? I know, for anyone who's listening for the first time, it was an accident that you hit the free hit button, so you were
did it go
you were already chasing ground.
No, I think the ones I did stick in were like I stuck Lingard, Saka, and I stuck Kane in over Ireland, and I stuck Tony in. So there was about 4 or 5 in there that I stuck in. I took Jack Harrison out for 1 week because I thought, Leeds wouldn't do so well against Chelsea, but bloody hell, he played another blinder again. So he's permanently in my team now. So I've stuck Tony in. I've kept with Nico Williams, and Andreas is in my team as well for this week. So I've took about an 8-point hit, but I've got a bench boost because Brentford have got quite a few games.
You're not really doing it. I thought that was a joke. Are you really doing your bench boost?
Yeah, I am doing my bench boost, yeah.
We only get like 1 of each of these chips.
I know.
We're in game week 4. 4.
I know. But
he's living the gimmick. Now you've told him Mr. Chips is...
No, because I were
thinking, go home, I suppose.
Yeah, because I were thinking on the bus this morning, like, should I looking at my triple captain with Salah against Bournemouth, because he does get
like have to do your triple captain either though. Like
no, but I was thinking with Salah, he does well against these newly promoted teams to the Premier League. I read a stat today that he scored about 18 goals in the last 3 or 4 seasons against these schmucks from the Championship. So.
I was looking last week, Andy, and I was looking at the biggest triple captain hauls that have ever happened, and I think all 5 or all 6 had happened on a double game week. So just bear that in mind.
When's double game week then?
It won't be until January or February when the FA Cup and Champions League games start.
Yeah, you won't have any chips by then, mate.
No, because I was thinking this week until I read the message in our group chat about what you were saying to Matty, that these are not double game weeks, even though it seems like there's a load of fixtures near together. But I think in general with my team, I did change Cancelo in for what's he called, Dan Burn from Newcastle. They're doing well at the moment defensively. So, and they got Wolves this weekend, and I can always in the fixture on Tuesday, Wednesday night, I can always take him out for say a Nico Williams or an Andreas, who are doing half decent at the moment. Nottingham Forest are very underrated. I know a lot of these FPL YouTubers are expecting them getting thumped every week, but they've got a good team on paper. They're better than Everton. And maybe Southampton, your Leicesters at the moment seem in a better position than them. I'd keep an eye on your Forest players at the moment.
Yeah, we'll go into the fixtures and stuff coming forward with them, and the value I suppose you can get out of those teams. But yeah, Chris, any thoughts on Andy's chip strategy, or have you ever seen the likes of this? I'm in.
Well,
I am in awe.
Ideally, you'd play your bench boost coming out of a wild card, because you'd do your wild card in the idea that you'd put a team together with 15 players that would all play, so that the following week you can then use your wild card, your bench boost to obviously maximise that. So. Yeah, you probably used it a bit too early, because, as I say, it's a single game week, and I can't imagine many people on your benches are going to have massive.
My bench for this week is Ward, Ivan Toney, Andreas, and Nico Williams.
Yeah, so it's a solid bench, because I've when I've been putting together my wild card, have thought, would it be worth using the bench boost early? But I mean, you've got playable players on your bench, so it should be all right. Will Andreas get another return? They got Fulham's game
away at Arsenal.
Away at Arsenal, yeah. So you probably think that's unlikely. And then Tony's got Everton, so chance of a haul there. Liverpool have been, not Liverpool, Leicester have been poor in defence, and they've got Chelsea. So Ward probably.
But Chelsea have been poor recently, haven't they? Defence wise.
And then who's the other one? Tony, Andreas. Oh, Nico Williams.
Nico Williams. They're against
Spurs,
Tottenham, aren't they? They're against Tottenham, and they're both really attacking sides, and he's on the right-hand side of midfield. So I think he could easily get. Tottenham are not invincible at the back, are they? They've never been known as a clean sheet side.
I'd be surprised if you get more than 8 points out of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, because I'm tempted to say it's possibly the worst possible week you could watch it work out, and then we're going to feel bad because we talked you out of it. But there will be 36 better weeks than this one to mention. I can't. Gareth, you go off the grid. You don't follow the usual kind of FPL patterns and stuff. Can you see?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's genuinely upsetting you, Gareth, isn't it?
I'm listening to him there. I'm listening to him reel out who's on his bench, and I'm thinking they're playing Chelsea, they're playing Spurs, and I'm just like,
my thought would be if you were going to play your bench, like my initial thought when I was thinking through the wild card and then bench boosting is you might as well wait to bench boost the week after all the free transfers that you get over the break, because then you can put your team together in setting up to put the team together for the bench boosting that week.
This is a content.
Sadie doesn't agree either. Sadie thinks you should check that. I would honestly say, Andy, like, I feel like you're a gambler, and I should take like your bank cards off you. I wish I could.
Oh yeah, I would trust me with them.
You can have them back. You can have them back in the winter break.
I'm just thinking, what must it be like go in the supermarket with Andy on payday when he's hungry?
I would just say there'll be double game weeks in future where there'll be teams who are playing two teams worse than Tottenham, and they'll have two goes at it, and the player won't be Nico Williams, who scored 1 point last week. Again, we'll get proven wrong by this. I don't know. JP, what do you think?
It's upsetting to hear in some ways, isn't it? It's like it flies in the face of all conventional logic, and there's a certain pain to it at the same time. But I admire the ballsiness. Like, I really do. Like, I'm still in admiration of it. I mean, I've got Nico Williams like in my draft team, but I've played my wild card, but I don't plan playing my bench boost just yet. So I can kind of see, just looking at Forest's fixtures after Spurs and Man City, if you did do it then, you've got Bournemouth at home, Leeds away, Fulham at home. Maybe they would do something then. Maybe Forest might well have gelled more as an attacking force, because that's the thing I think at this stage in time is they're going to be kind of finding themselves these next couple of weeks. I think they're going to be incredibly predictable. Because
that's where I'm thinking of bringing Dean Henderson in a couple of weeks, so I can probably swap him with Ederson while Man City's got some harder games.
The thing, like on the bench as well, I mean, just looking at Brentford, and again going to the fixtures on here, and you can follow the FDR on the FPL website if you want to go that far of it. But these are all games where you're just looking at them and you're thinking, there's a goal in Brentford against Everton. They can score against Palace because it'll have that kind of, it'll be a good atmosphere and all the rest of it. Leeds at home, this can't last for that long. And then Southampton away, and then it's Arsenal at home. So you're looking at Brentford there and you're thinking they could get themselves into a quite tidy position by that point and kind of possibly, they look a very settled squad. And like in terms of the points are very well spread out there. And I saw a lot of sort of tipping of Ben Mee and the like. So I just don't play a bench boost, mate. Come on. Like, I feel like we're at a casino, an FPL casino, and I'm having to tell you to leave.
It's like being in a pub with Jeff and there's a gambling machine in the corner.
Yeah. Were you really hacked by Ukrainians last year, Andy, or was that just you?
No, I was hacked by the Ukraine. You probably take pity on me now, like you done it yourself.
Oh, amazing. Jamie asks, is it worth keeping Mount? We'll get into that when we get to it, because I know JP's got him in his team.
Yeah, I'm just loading up a couple of bits on Fantasy Football Hub that I might be able to share the screen of. Who is he thinking of getting? Because I've got Mount versus Saka and Mount versus Kulowski loaded up, but I could look at other people if he's got any other thoughts on there, Jamie.
Yeah, let us know
looking at.
Let us know in the chat game. It might be helpful for JP on his wild cards. But yeah, before we get to there, we'll go to
spoiler alert.
Oh, we did that already. There's your advice, then get rid of Mount. Well, we'll bring some sanity back to proceedings. Let's have a look at Garrett's team. Another chip user, but this was a wild card team. Garrett, 54 points. Kind of in line with just above the overall average, and kind of in line with the average of us lot. How do you feel about it? First weekend.
I don't know. I can't see my team.
You're not seeing us,
I'll get it up on my own. If
can everyone else see Garrett's team?
Yeah, showing up for me.
Yeah.
In goal, Edison.
No, I've got graps and claps up on my screen. Weird.
That's weird. It's not updated.
All right. Well, you can also.
Going to reel it off, JP.
That's the main. I've got it in front of me. I've got it on. So, like I had Edison in goal. Like say, he's always my City pick because I know he's going to play. And obviously, again, there was a bit of pep rotation at the weekend with Diaz missing out. It was only the injury, obviously, that got him on the pitch. So at least is reliable if you want that City defender with Edison there. Alexander-Arnold, no points. We all know what happened there. I'm not in the panic stations with Trent Alexander-Arnold. There's a lot of FPL podcast content people here getting twitchy fingers over in week 3 about Trent, Mr. Consistent 200 points, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't think anybody needs to be getting a twitchy ass about that. If you're delivering 200 points for 7.5 million, like, it's insanity to me that anybody would even consider getting rid of him out of the side. So he'll be a fixture for me. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people who transfer him out this week on the reaction, probably use that money to spread across 2 players, watch him haul against Bournemouth, and then suddenly go, I want Trent back in my team, and have to take a -4 or a -8 or something. He's gone up at 100k again or something like that. So I'll be sticking with him. Reece James, the 1 point, we all know Chelsea did dog shit at the weekend, and he's on thin ice for me because, again, is that attacking fullback option who keeps seeming to be played in the back 3 with Koulibaly getting sent off in that game as well. I'm thinking, is he going to stick to his guns and keep him there? So he's definitely on my twitchy list there, I would say, James, currently. Perisic, that was, delighted with that. I was a real last minute waiting for as much team news as possible, and that couldn't have been fucking happy with that. Getting him in at 5.4, so getting him at 100k less than his starting value, getting him in, saving a bit of dosh there. That was good. Rico Henry was the one that absolutely fucked me over good and proper because I had, as you'd know from my team last week, I had Saliba in both options of my team. He was in my team all week. I never considered taking him out. Looked at Brentford's fixtures and went, you know what? Maybe over those next, 3 or 4 games, Henry might just get a couple more. Changed it to Henry. Literally sat on my sofa on Saturday morning and went, what am I doing? Put Saliba back in. And then I went on the app and it was like, the fantasy page is updating. And I was
slow motion.
I'd missed it by like 2 minutes or something.
No.
And then I was watching the game and I watched him score and I was just like fucking fuming, so that proper pissed on my chips at the weekend because I was looking at him working it out though. The extra 11 points or whatever I'd have got, 12 points or whatever, the impact that would have made on my league placing was phenomenal, just like off one guy. So that pissed me off. What are you going to say?
We discussed him last week, didn't we? I think we said he's got 2 goals in 88 performances or whatever it was in France. Yeah. And no real attacking threat in the data, that sort of thing. So he's basically a clean sheet merchant. And then absolutely spanked one in with his wrong foot from 20 yards. You're just like, absolutely ridiculous.
Couldn't believe it.
No, it'll be interesting to see if he was being like shackled to a position previously when he was on loan, Oh yeah, and that flipping Saliba chant was in my head for the rest of the day.
As it should have been.
It was.
There he goes, Saliba. He makes me happy. Comes.
Oh no, it was just the other one, wasn't it? It was.
All right, Saliba.
Yeah, it was basically the Bobby Guns version. You know, when we went to Germany for and the Bobby Guns chant went for 20, 25 minutes. They literally did the Saliba chant for probably the last 20 minutes of the first half.
Yeah.
Didn't really start in the second half, and then he scored a banger, and then they just carried on for the rest of the game.
Just went berserk.
Yeah, it was perfectly timed. You couldn't have booked it better.
But anyway, Rico Henry's at home to Everton this week, so I'm pinning my hopes on. Okay, it might balance out in the wash over a fortnight period here, so yeah, you never know. But rest of the stuff, like Salah, obviously he got his goal. Son, captain. You know, absolute shite. That was like watching the game. I was just like,
that's not the first time we'll hear this reaction today, is it?
Fucking hair, Gareth, mates. Honestly,
just watching the game, and I was like, why is Kane the furthest forward and Son's not playing on the defender's shoulders? Why is Son over on the left and playing deeper? This is different to last year, kind of thing. So that was a bit of a worry. But I'll stick to my guns because I managed to get him in cheaper with the price drop as well. So potentially made a bit of money there on Son. Martinelli we've talked about. Madison, reliable as ever. Like, you know, getting points there. Jesus and Tony again. You know, foolish not to have these two up front, I think, and getting the points there. So all in all, I was reasonably happy. It was just the Saliba thing that pissed on my chips, but yeah,
there's always going to be one, isn't there?
That's you know, you look there, and my captain. Realistically, I was going Salah or Son. There was no other route. So you know, if I'd have gone Salah, I'd have walked out 10 more points or something like that. Yeah, these are the fine margins, aren't they? You think if you put Saliba in, you captain Salah over Son. Suddenly there's 20 points, and the impact after 3 weeks is massive, isn't it? 20 points, but early days.
I was going to say with Saliba though, as a defensive option, you generally think of putting Gabriel and Zinchenko in before him because they've had more attacking returns, like in the past.
You couldn't have predicted that goal, like
4.5 though.
Like,
half a million cheaper, and you know he's playing. That's the thing.
Yeah,
that's the advantage of Saliba, I think.
There's going to be clean sheets in that as well, isn't there? But like I was the same as you, you know, Salah versus Son for captain. I went with Son as well, and yeah, still feeling the pain now. But what I'm telling myself, Gareth, is it's only really a 5-point difference, you know, once you count in Son's 3-point haul for captaincy that you got extra on top. So you know, you didn't lose out. It could have been worse for us on Monday. That's all I'm saying. Like it's horrible watching a player like Salah and thinking, especially for you being a Liverpool lead as well, being like, I want him to do okay, but not better than okay. Like 8 points is probably the limit. If he'd got like 10 or 12, I'd be fuming. I can take 8. You know what I mean? Because it only doubles to 16. If it gets bigger than that, it starts to get to double digits. That's when it's bad. Because you want some return, you just don't want everyone else benefiting too much.
If he'd have got a last-minute winner there, a last-minute equaliser against United, you'd have been off your sofa, punching the air, you big liar.
Of course. But no, I was going to ask you on the Liverpool points, probably a good point as any to talk about it. I know you've got strong feelings about Trent. He is someone who I've gone through different versions of my wild card. There's a version without him in. There's a version with him in. Like, I think I agree with your overall point with Trent in that, of course, you know, like how many seasons has he been like either the top scorer or the second top scorer? But at the same time, like it's you know, is he got? I mean, I think if the Bournemouth game wasn't coming up, I would give it more consideration. Don't get me wrong. You're playing Bournemouth at home at the weekend. Like I can't quite bring myself to commit to bringing him out. It's still a possibility, but you know, it's that looming over me. But it's like we were kind of saying in the chat. I don't, you know, it's not these players. You know, you go through like last year, like Bowen, for example. I was looking at him, you know, over like the 36 appearances he had. How many? You know, he was like I think he was the 5th highest scoring player in the game, but he had 18 games where he didn't get any points at all. And it was like, my logic would be if Liverpool didn't have Bournemouth coming up, and there is maybe this sketchy period where like Liverpool are conceding goals and you can't rely on Trent for clean sheets and you're purely going for attacking points, the gambler in me would be like, can I like say there are, let's say there's 8 weeks this season where Trent isn't gonna get any points on top of like his appearance points. So apparently last year it was 9 games altogether in an entire season that he didn't get any points. You know, we're 3 in now, so how many more can there reasonably be with Trent? I suppose is the counter argument there. But I'll maybe be looking at it if Bournemouth wasn't coming up, maybe if the fixtures weren't as they were. Maybe this is the period to not own Trent, you know, and at the period when Liverpool are on the boil a little bit more and getting him, then maybe using the money temporarily to use it for a James if you haven't got him, or even a gamble like one of the Spurs defenders like a Perisic or somebody like that. If it allows you to do that, like, you know, a lot of people have been doing with the Robinson money, could there be an argument for it there?
I just think, like, you look at Liverpool's fixtures coming up and you've got like Bournemouth at home, you've got Wolves at home coming up in the next 4 games, you've got Everton away. Like, you know, 3, you couldn't ask for 3 easier games probably in the 4 there. You're home to Newcastle. That'll be a challenge because the way they cut through City at the weekend, if we're playing that eye line and depending who's on our team, it could be problematic. But that's 3 out of 4 games that you're looking at and you're thinking, do you want Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team when Liverpool's at home to Bournemouth, at home to Wolves and away at Everton? Probably. Like, and then when you look at things like, you just have to look at the other stats. Like, he got 32 bonus points last year, so he's averaging an extra point in pretty much every game. But I think he only played something like 34 games, so he's averaging a bonus point pretty much every game last year. 18 clean sheets, 12 assists. Like, and then when you look at like the best scoring defenders last year, you've got Cancelo, who obviously everybody knows is like the alternative at City, the one who's involved and things like that. So it's no surprises that it is close. But if you go like looking beyond Liverpool defenders below Trent last year, you get into the realms of like Laporte for 160 points. You're getting into the realms of like Matty Cash for 147. You're literally looking at lads who got 60 points less than him. You know, they got like, you know, owned less than 3/4 of the same points that he got. And I'll always come back to the fact that he's underpriced for me, like 7.5 million. When you're looking there,
I agree with that.
Spending what is Bruno Fernandes 10? Is like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you there's people, you know, Maddison, as far as the points he gets, he's more expensive than Trent. Saka is, Mason Mount is. You're just like, no chance on in hell for me. Like, I just think I hope everyone does get rid of him, because then I'd love Trent to become a differential for me. So if you are listening to your FPL podcasts and they're telling you get him out your team, go on, get him out.
Yeah.
Because
Gareth, 300,000 have got shut of him this week.
Really?
Yeah.
But I think the argument, I would like to defend the FPL podcast. I think the argument people are more making, it's more about Robbo. It's more about like, so for you, Gareth, would you, if you had double Liverpool defense, would you be stepping right now? That's the move people are making. It's like, well, if I take one of them out, I can use that extra money. I think more people are getting rid of Robbo than Trent.
Yeah, I have.
I would fucking love to have Robbo in my team instead of Reece James for the next 4 games. I would, but like it's extra million that I can't free up.
That's the thing. Robertson is also, I think, at risk of becoming a regular guy taken off. It already looks like Tsimikas is going to be a guy that's coming on with 30 minutes to play, sort of thing. So you're not going to be getting a full 90 from Robertson every week. And Tsimikas, like, obviously adds in additional, like, good legs, and he's also, like, good set piece taker, good crosser as well. So I think it's going to be more of a challenge now that there's 5 subs for the Robertson place. I still think he'll obviously haul quite well, but I've got rid of him in my wild card as it stands at the minute. Just I've kept Trent and then look to move Robertson on. And I think Robertson's down to like 10% ownership throughout the game or something, which
like,
is
that's bloody attractive. That because like
that's it. It makes him a good differential.
Robbo averaged like a point a game more than Cancelo last year, but he played slightly less. But people like he just flies under the radar. He basically his points per game's level with Trent. Like again, 7 mil. Who are you buying for 7 mil? Zaha, no one else. Like
that's it. So I mean, that's the thing, because he's down to 6.9 now. I think Robertson. But like you could do
8.5% only at the moment.
So you could do I could switch in with Cancelo, because obviously everyone's kind of thinking Cancelo's playing a bit more defensively, or like not as attackingly this year. But I don't know. That's kind of the toss up to go. Or you could always just switch between them when you think you see something favourable. But it's a difficult one with Robertson, just with the price point. I think
that the argument I think people are making, it is that idea of, and I agree with it in theory. You could have from last year the top scorer in 11 players. You wouldn't win FPL. Because the game is getting them in when they're hot and bringing in. Say there's a 6 week spell. Zaha's amazing. Having Zaha for those 6 weeks, but for the rest of the season, having a Gross in his place or somebody else like that. The counter to that, and the reason it doesn't quite work, and the reason Trent has circled right back round to being back in most of my wildcard drafts, is that it's those Liverpool fixtures coming up. It's also the fact that it's Trent. It's also the fact that you're playing that game with Trent, like I said there, to flip it on its head, he had 32 starts last year, and there was only 9 he didn't get any points in. Closest to that was Salah on 11, Son on 13, Cancelo on 14, Bowen on 18. Different games where he didn't get any points, but Trent, was overall the most consistent. And predicting those 9 games where he didn't get points is, it's probably a fool's errand, isn't it? Especially when there's a fixture on like Liverpool have got coming.
With this specific Liverpool game as well, obviously they have had poor form coming into it. But I was listening to the Net the Hall podcast earlier, which is a very stats-based one, and they were saying the stats for how Liverpool attack down the right going up against how Bournemouth defend down the left, like their left sort of thing. It's just so heavily in favour of like Liverpool this weekend that they could. Their algorithm has them winning like 3-4-0 at a minimum sort of thing. It could be, if Liverpool get ticking again, it could, I think one of the things they said about Bournemouth is they're the lowest performing team in every major category so far in the Premier League, and they're still over exceeding their expectations. So like they're playing better than anybody expected, and they're still the worst team in the Premier League by a long way. So if Liverpool can get together, that right-hand side for their attack, Salah, Elliott and Trent could have a field day.
Might triple captain Trent.
Yeah, that's it.
He's listening.
Yeah, Andy was saying a little earlier that I think Bournemouth concedes more crosses than anybody else as well at the moment. So, it could be one for a lot of Trent assists. So.
Like, as the Liverpool supporter, Gareth, what did you make of the United game on it? But no Jamesy here to have his victory, that mate. So that was a fun game of football.
Oh well. At the end of the day, I told him last week he wasn't confident at all on this show. I was saying to him like, I'm not confident. I wasn't confident all week, and I think it played out that way. It was much closer. People were talking about 4-0s, 5-0s. Like, you're thinking, what are you fucking talking about? When you see the team when you see the team lineup though, and you've got Henderson and Milner in midfield, like Liverpool couldn't carry both them in the same midfield 3 years ago. Never mind, like now. So that's one thing. But at the end of the day, it was what it was. United fucking worked harder, ran more, battled harder. You look at the stats and you look at our possession and you look at our shots and all that, and we had more of all that, but it doesn't mean a thing because they just deserved the win. Absolutely deserved it. And you can't win them all, but it does amuse me that the panic, the blind panic. You all over Twitter, social media, FPL, everything. Like, just this whole thing. Like, it's our second game that we've lost since November in 2021. And suddenly it's like, Liverpool are done, Liverpool are finished, transfer everyone out. Like, and you're just like, get out, bit of perspective, lads. You're like, come on.
Did it? I mean, you talked me around because I think I was the one, at least at the time of recording last week. I was pretty much set on not captaining Salah, like knowing the risk of that. But I really think that risk could have paid off, not for me, not just for me, but for you as well. Like, it was just, it's Son that let us down. I think in general, Salah on 8 points is actually, it's in another week when if Son had banged, or like Jesus had and you'd captained him, like that could have been a really good week to go against Salah. So in theory, it wasn't a terrible idea.
I mean, this is probably one for Chris, really, because that was the first live 90 minutes of Tottenham that I've watched this season. And like the heat map in my head watching Son, like I say, he was deeper, he was more left side and things. I don't know if that's been the case in the first couple of games as well, but I'd be interested just to kind of keep my eye on that Son heat map, because last season he was essentially a striker with Kane, playing as the deeper one, playing him through, and Son playing off the shoulder. But if he's not playing like that this season, he's not going to get the same amount of points, is he? There's nowhere near. So suddenly Son becomes a bit more of a risk for me.
Yeah, I mean, Son's heat map is kind of all over the shop. Let me just see if I can share that.
It was the catalyst for me going for my wild card. It was like I need to get Son out. He needs to go.
Does that pop up? There we go. So that's Son's heat map at the moment. As you can see, it's just kind of all over the place. He's still dropping deep. There's still a bit of a threat in the box, but nothing. I think that's more what you'd have expected Harry Kane's to be from the way he was playing last year. But
it feels a lot deeper and more left side.
He's kind of like underperforming.
Is it a free site, that, Chris?
No, okay. This is a paid. This is paid on the Fantasy Football Hub,
right?
On their thing. But yeah, as you can see, like his heat map, he's kind of all over the pitch, but not too too much shots in the box.
It's like I think that the thing with Son, I think people kind of expect him to be reliable as well. And if he's starting to get pulled for, if he's the one who goes off for a Richarlison rather than Kulusevski that people expected, Kane's probably starting every game, isn't he? Kane's probably not being a risk, but even just general like football people who were just Spurs fans, I think are noticing the difference that this is not at least so far not been the Son that people used to.
Yeah, it seems that Spurs are trying to figure something out different with the info, like with the way the team's kind of set up. Obviously, Kane was dropping a lot deeper last year. This year seems to be playing a bit of a higher line. But yeah, the thing with Son is that he generally overperforms, like his XG and stuff. But you can't always overperform the stat. At some point, he'll have to revert back to the norm. So it could be just the case of the fact that this is the season where he can't sustain that sort of run. But we'll see. I think the one thing Spurs could have as well is they bringing Richarlison in is good, but that's still only one player to kind of sub out over Son, Kane, and Kulusevski sort of thing. I don't think they've got many other options that you'd really want to be playing all the time.
I was going to say, wasn't he one of your big calls, Gareth? Was it Son versus Kane in your kind of your main two drafts you had?
It was that. It basically boiled down to that Son versus Kane, and Kane scored, didn't he? And so there you go. Like it went the other way, but equally, if I'd have had Kane, I might not have had Tony or something. And Tony scored.
Yeah.
It's like I think it came out pretty even in the wash really. But for me, there with Son, it's like when you're looking at where you've got best part of 12 mil tied up in him, that's when you're thinking, all right, well, is De Bruyne a better option, or is suddenly can I spread that cash and can I get Robbo at the back instead of Rico Henry, or can I get that's the decision for me. It's where you've got mega money tied up in someone rather than saying about spending your Trent money like you saw. If you've got 12 tied up in somebody and that's when you start to get fucking itchy feet.
The thing,
then I look at his fixtures and he's got Fulham in 3 weeks, hasn't he?
That's what. Yeah, I was just going to say. You look at these next fixtures. Forest next week, really good game. West Ham haven't come out of the gates at all yet. Fulham, City. That's a low score there because he's always good against City. His pace is the one thing that Spurs have against City that generally gets a haul in. And then you've got Leicester, and then Arsenal, which is a derby, so anything could happen there. And then Brighton away is probably the first game where you have to see. But even then, it's still only Brighton. But they're solid defensively. But
I'll tell you what, I'll probably stick with him to that Leicester game. And if he's not performing by that Leicester game, then he's out. Because if you're not fucking getting points against Leicester and Fulham at home, and then either West Ham or Forest away, you ain't getting points.
That's the thing. Week 7 and 8, that's the international break. So then you can do a kind of full reset sort of thing and see where everybody lies. You'll have more data to kind of work off at that point.
And that's the other thing about spending all that money on him, isn't it? It's if you've spent all that money on him and you're not feeling confident enough to captain him, like what's he doing there? You know what I mean? That's when it starts to be like, that's why I got itchy fingers and switch this week. But yeah, not looking great at the minute. But a team that did look good this week. JP, he's back.
Well, it always looks bad with that name, doesn't it?
But,
Yeah.
Every time
I was very happy about that.
JP.
Say that again, mate.
Every time I see him, I'm like, whose team's that? Oh, yeah, it's JP. Of course it is.
Well, I mean, it was Sunday where it all sort of slightly go to hell in a handcart, really. But I mean, I took Andy's advice of getting Zaha in. But I mean, just to go through the team on there, I've Raya. I mean, I've played a wild card this week as well, so I'll sort of go through that. And I'm still umming and ahhing up to this point as well because I angsted over the whole Trent Alexander-Arnold because I looked at the fixtures and just thought, well, he's going to come good. Just the law of averages in its most simplistic way. But 56 overall, that's okay, given I think how the league went. There wasn't that many people. It seemed to, looking at our GRAPPL league, many people getting up around 70, 80. That was very much a rarity. So I thought as long as I did above the average and kind of didn't lose too much. So yeah, Raya has always been, I mean, even though he conceded 3 goals, he gets 3 points. He does that quite regularly, just I think partly because of his passing game, doesn't he? He gets bonus points for that quite a bit and always tends to pull off a few decent saves. Trent we've spoken about in detail. Trippier, who I kept around through the wildcard team as well because he's on set pieces. He looks absolutely rock solid. Newcastle looks solid. And if they're making the kind of transfers they're being linked with, so someone like an Alexander Isak, you think, okay, there's something really about this team that's starting to develop. Even though sports washing is obviously evil, just with that proviso in there as well. City, that's an anomaly. My logic for the wildcard of having a stronger bench is I'm not sure if he's going to give Cancelo a week off. That's my kind of thinking. He's due the next round of Pep Roulette, but they're not exactly strong on defenders, are they? I mean, they can go with say John Stones.
Tend to drop
There's that. Is it Sergio Gomez who they signed? He's like $4.5 million. So there is talk of putting him in or Aki.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nathan Aki in there as well. And I mean, and Kyle Walker still, I think, tremendous value. What is he? 5.1. At this point, and he's always like pretty much a regular starter. It was the midfield and the Mount. It didn't pay off. Like I thought this was going to be the week, like against Leeds and everything else. And I didn't see the game, but I was happy they lost, obviously, because I don't like Chelsea. But when I saw the 2 points, I just went, he's 8 million. It's like a lot of what you guys have said about Saka. I just look at Chelsea, and when I've seen them, just in terms of that goal threat, it just doesn't seem like that sharpness is there at all. And I imagine Mount is going to be the kind of player that we're looking at, almost like I wonder if post-World Cup, that might end up being the time to kind of get him in. Zaha went with Andy's tip, and I always fancy Wilf, especially Villa. That had Wilf written all over it for him to do that. Obviously, I was quietly seething as he, had a penalty saved and then scores from the rebound. He's celebrating. I'm thinking, there's disappointment about this as well. And I'm actually thinking, I mean, it's funny for my wildcard team, I haven't got Zaha in there. Just looking at Palace's fixtures, I'm not too sure. And I'm also partly thinking of Eze as a sort of budget version. I managed to see in the flesh, like, because Palace were playing Oxford this week in the League Cup. So I was at that game. Tremendous amount of violence afterwards as well. Like, you wouldn't have imagined where that came from.
The Oxford University massive.
Mate. Right, Oxford United bears zero resemblance to Oxford. There are just people, they love a scrap. Like you see Bradford there and you're assuming it'd be Bradford who might be bringing the trouble. No, it's Oxford each and every time. Those market towns, they breed maniacs. But Zaha, he has got that level of consistency. You have him on penalties as well. So I mean, and he's is he 7.1? I think he's had a prize.
7.1. He is. He said he's like in 2022. He's the third highest scorer behind Son and Kane.
Yeah. Exactly. Martinelli. I mean, even though he didn't score this week, and I think there's going to come a point with Arsenal, and this is going to be the kind of large one where they may start to make slight rotations, particularly if we're looking between weeks 5 and 6, where there's the midweek round in there as well. That
Smith Rowe getting a game, that type of thing.
Smith Rowe, I think the idea of Eddie Nketiah playing up front and Jesus playing out wide isn't something, because that's how they finished the game the other day. So you kind of think, well, that's possibly the case there. But Martinelli certainly is always going to be a bench option, and he's absolutely full of energy. And it's also the thing that doesn't probably get picked up is there's a real shot of him being in the Brazil squad for the World Cup. So like he's got to go at it all guns blazing, and it only looks good if he's like obviously working well in combination with Jesus, who wasn't the point scorer, but if you watch the game, he is the class act on show. Like you're under no illusions about that in any way, shape.
There were goals and assists there, weren't there, in another unit, in an alternate universe.
Like. Odegaard stealing that second one off his foot and putting it in the net, that was hilarious, I thought.
Which, I mean, Odegaard becomes an option at 6.5, but it seems to be like for a lot of the Saka stuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see Saka have like the good weekend against Fulham in the way that it's kind of rotated around the forwards of who's in that kind of those 4 attacking players, about where it's kind of rotating around, and you can see that at this stage in the game. Haaland up front seems like somewhat of a no-brainer, because I think there's still I don't think he's going to be part of Pep Roulette quite yet.
Oh, well,
he said the opposite, hasn't he?
Yeah, Pep came out and said the opposite.
Oh, fucking!
Don't listen to Pep. Listen to JP.
Ruined it then.
Pep said in a press conference, once City start playing more than one game a week, there's not a chance that Haaland starts.
Yeah.
Whether that means he doesn't start a game at all and he just comes off the bench every game, or he's starting alternate games or something. But he was saying he was saying that Alvarez is going to start getting starts. I'd have thought with that Forest game, which is game week 5, but I guess there might be chances.
I think rotation this year, though, like just to that point, like it's gone, like, because usually you go, okay, cool, and okay, Haaland, I'll switch to Kane, because he's going to play every game, and that is something I've considered with like my wildcard drafts. But the thing is, with this 5 subs business, he's going to get on any Haaland. He's going to get pitch time,
and you give Haaland half an hour against a tiring, not defense who've been absolutely up the entire game.
I think Jamesy touched on it last week, didn't he? That sort of thing. And Salah did have a game last year where he came on with 20, 30 minutes to go, scored 2 goals. Sort of thing. There's easily a chance
saved a few game weeks.
He did save a good few game weeks on.
I mean, it's taking Pep Roulette to another level, isn't it? Is Haaland in the team, and then is he going to get on for a few minutes or that sort of thing?
It feels like you're playing a game of bluff with Pep Guardiola. But he literally has all the cards here. He's the only decision maker in the room, and you've got to start outthinking him and outsmart him, which isn't going to happen. Danny Ward on the bench, but I've taken him out of the foreign just because I don't like Leicester. I don't see a clean sheet in them at all at the moment, and they look like they're kind of turning into a bit of a crisis club. Well,
Brendan's the most the favourite to get sacked now, isn't he? I think
it costs a lot, doesn't it? He's in there for a big there's a big payoff.
Yeah, he got a big deal when he won the league and everything, didn't he? So.
Is that why he's not just walking? Because you would think with everything being stripped around him, he'd be like, "Fuck this." Is he just?
It feels like you might. Yeah, you probably would, wouldn't you?
He's going to open his envelope and find his own name in it.
He's going to wear the turkey suit. Yeah.
I mean, he can't draw like Mikel Arteta either. Who's
he's an artist, isn't he?
If you want a good laugh,
I do love Arteta's art attack before each game.
If you do want a good laugh, I'd suggest reading David Squires, as I would do every single week in The Guardian. And he does Arteta as a Lego man with everything is awesome. And he's got a heart and a brain with their hands up like that beside him. And then he points out that maybe Arsenal, after playing harder games than Palace, Leicester and Bournemouth, might be in for a bit more few tests later on this year.
Have you watched it yet, JP?
I'm up to episode 5, and the problem is at this stage, I'm like, oh God, this is we're entering painful territory. I just kind of want them to just put a bit on there and go, well, they fell a bit apart at the end, but next season they're going to start off really well, so let's go on with it. I just want to hit that point.
I love it when like Arteta asks some kind of semi-philosophical question or something like that in the change room, and you just see all the lads like, and they're just thinking like nobody wants to answer it, and they want to like get it wrong or like make a twat out of themselves. I love
There's
it.
like BTEC level 3s in that room. You're asking them philosophy questions. Like,
I'll tell you what though, it's definitely making me lean more towards Arsenal, like with the FPL there, with like where you've got like Martinelli in my team. I'm like watching that documentary and I'm like, they clearly fucking love him. They clearly, you can see the love they've got for him and how highly they rate him. And you go, he's playing more than you think he's going to play and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I think with FPL that it doesn't always pick up on is like sometimes some of the off-field stuff that's there. And the situation you've got is you've got 3 players like with contracts that have just gone under 2 years, and he's one of them. I think there's an option to bring out a third one for him, but there's a point with the World Cup where I think Martinelli is just going to be going absolutely all guns blazing. And he really didn't play that much last year, didn't play in the summer. So he's fresh and has learnt that left wing role. It's whether or not they ever decide to use him as basically a third choice front striker. So, I mean, and that's always been the option with Martinelli. So he even has that value really as a forward threat, especially on the counter and whatnot.
I've heard that talking point with him, JP, just to ask you the question, like people being like, oh, we've had Martinelli's points now. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, it's like,
I don't think, as you know, I've been very bullish on Martinelli for quite some time because it's just the way he came into it. You can tell these kind of players. And I think for me, he's like, I'm quite bullish on Arsenal. Like not league winning. I'm not like complete mentalist. We all know that the evil empire are winning, and it's going to be Man City. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of Arsenal players who present value, particularly. I mean, I think this game against Fulham is going to be slightly tougher. I'm slightly less sure of him at the back because I think Mitrovic is going to be a big test. Particularly if they tell him that he's actually playing up against Rotherham instead, and they just like he goes into championship mode again and starts banging goals in. And then it's Greenwood's gone off the bench, like whatever. You never.
What was the catalyst, JP, for your wild card? Like, because I like the look of your team, to be honest, going forward. Because we'll get into the wild cards in a minute. We'll bomb through mine and Chris's teams first. But like for me, the catalyst was Son, and it was having fucking Ward in goal. Like that was enough for me. But I don't know, you've got good balance there, and that's good.
Yeah, there was that, but I also kind of had thought to myself, there is a point where you're missing the train on people, and it felt like there was a lot of players who I was missing the boat on, and I kind of wanted them in and around there. I wanted Zinchenko in there more. I wanted Perisic in there. Right. You know, I wanted to go down to kind of possibly one City defender, not because I think they're going to ship many goals or anything else. I wanted Mount out. I brought in Ivan Toney to go with the 3-pronged attack of Toney, Jesus, and Haaland. And like 3 in midfield, and still rely effectively on my defenders for points. I mean, this was the 1 week with the defenders, like for the first part of my season, and I'm really happy generally with the start I've had.
Oh, you're having a good season. I know you're not doing well compared to Pat, but you know you're doing well compared to.
Pat. Don't start on that. I bet he's played a wild card as well, the bastard, this week. So, I can't even listen to this now. So yeah, that's my. I mean, and in terms of the wild card, like at the moment,
well, we'll do the wild cards in a minute if that's all right, JP. We'll throw
go for it
on screen. But like, I like the look of your team. Like I say, you've had. I think you're still in like the top 20 or so in the GRAPPL League 20th. You are. In there, you've had a great start, but I suppose it's the way to kick on even stronger, isn't it? You know, and move forward. But yeah, I've got a good little team there. Like I say, taking that Zaha advice of Andy's. You know, he's always an unfashionable player, but you know, he's always going to get you points, isn't he?
It was either him or Odegaard. They were the two I thought, because I just fancied Odegaard to actually have a big game because he'd been kind of spoken down a bit, and I still think he's going to be as an option. And the only player I would like to have in, and I haven't. Like he's Gundog, but I haven't seen too much of him about, and I think he's just in for a big few weeks because he's going to do Gundog things, isn't he?
Of course. Yeah. Well, we'll bump through mine and Chris's team, and then we'll get into those wild cards. This was me, 49. Yeah, Ward and goal again. The secondary reason why I'm doing a wild card, but yeah, can't live with that Ward. If anything, like it wouldn't shock me if Iverson starts getting games. Like the fucking state of that Leicester defense and Ward and goal in general. It was always too tempting, wasn't it? That 4 million for each for two keepers. It was always a trap, and it's proven to be so. As JP said there, it was a bad week for the big at the back, Trent, Cancelo, and Walker getting the square root of fuck all for a week. Getting rid of Robbo allowed me to afford Perisic and James. That did come with the price of losing Ben White, who he got a clean sheet. He didn't do any better than that. So I'm still up on that transfer. It was always a short term move with the idea that a wild card will be coming. So can't complain too much about that. Everyone's got Martinelli. Everyone's got Salah. Like I said earlier, didn't captain him. Could have ended worse. So I'm comfortable with that decision I made. Obviously, in starting Andreas Pereira worked out well. I think he's going to be a great 12th man for a lot of squads going forward. Son captain fail, same as Gareth. Haaland with 6. And then there he is, Mr. IWC Bailey Gareth, first sub, and he actually got put the points. It turned out all right because anyone.
What kind of moron leaves IWC Bailey on the bench?
It was a nice little setup as well for the Ollie Watkins goal, but that's the only thing that they seem to do all right in that game.
That's his points for this year, isn't it? He's done now.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You won't hear from him again.
Yeah.
Is he gone? Is he gone in your wild card? Or are you hanging
the
on?
only reason he might stay is there's a couple of drafts I've done where I've gone like 5-3-2. 5-2-3 even, and I've had just 3 cheap defenders on the three cheap midfielders on the bench, and he's been one of those 3. But there's cheaper options, there's better options if anyone's got him. Pereira's right there, isn't he? That's your option. There's better options in the Leeds squad, in the Fulham squad, in the Brentford squad. Yeah, no reason to keep him going forward. But yeah, Coutinho got dropped and Bailey played. He's maybe these IWC FPL pundits were right.
Maybe if Gerrard gets a sack, he could be right. He could be the main man for the next manager.
Yeah, I think he's even less likely to play after that. But like I say, I am a little bit not regretful I pulled the wild card. I don't feel like it was a panic wild card. It was kind of similar to what JP was saying over the weekend. I was kind of looking at my points coming in, continuing to fall behind. So that was an element of it, but mostly this felt like a weekend where we got a lot of information, and it was a lot of like, okay, Mitrovic is clearly an option now. Tony is clearly an option now. It's becoming clearer. Maybe for me as well, one of my biggest gambles, and I was, to be honest, I got off scot-free pretty much. Jesus, he's obviously coming in on my wild card. I feel blessed really that I've only missed the one haul. I was saying last week that 19-point haul wasn't going to happen every week. As we said then, looking at JP's team, it could have absolutely happened again this week. So that felt like a near miss, and yeah, something I needed to rectify looking at everyone else's team. But yeah, not a great week, not a disastrous week. So I can overall live with it. But yeah, we'll have a look at Chris's team last as far as the wild card is for this week. And yeah, Chris, there you are. The bench warmers, 47. Only the 2 less than me, mate. But
it's just below average as well, which is kind of rounds up how the season's gone, I think. Yeah, nothing major to talk about that everybody else hasn't already touched on, really. Ward in net hasn't really paid off. As I said, I generally put him in there hoping that his price would rise and then we could switch him out. But that's not even come off. So I think that experiment can be deemed a failure.
Go down already? Is he 3.9?
I think I switched him out before the change, but yeah, he's down to 3.9 now. So I'd say 0.1 there. Trent didn't get anything due to a booking, and the goals they let in. Reece James didn't do anything. Ideally, you'll go back out on the right wing and start getting the attacking returns. Kyle Walker and Robertson didn't return anything. Zinchenko got a clean sheet, no attacking returns, but continues to look decent shout going forward. So he stays in my draft going forward. Captain Salah seemed like the obvious choice that week. Managed to get one in. Saka, as I say, I kept with him for another week. and that's pretty much his lot now, I think, on that side. Andreas came in off the bench because Grealish didn't play, which was my other big shout going into the season. If I'd have had Gungaden there instead, which was the other option for that position, and as I was saying last week, that was the transfer I was thinking of doing. Yeah, but I thought I'd give Grealish another week. That didn't pay off. So there's a lot of 50-50s that just haven't really worked. And then Haaland and Jesus up front with a 6 and a 4. And then the bench, nobody played. So I've basically changed we'll see when we do the wild cards, but the team's basically changed so that I've got 14 starters and then one that kind of comes off the bench quite often, sort of thing. So I think it's going to be a stronger bit overall with a couple of early trends towards what I should have done to begin with. So yeah, not a great game week, not a great game month, but we'll see how it goes. We move onwards.
What was it? What was the trigger for you as far as a wild card goes? Was it similar thinking, more information?
Yeah,
how to do it.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's enough information to make solid choices, but the ones that I was kind of banking on, Grealish getting a lot of game time, hasn't come off, and it looks like he's injured at the moment. And then the keeper didn't really work. Saka, I think there's better options at that price point. So I thought those 3 changes, and then I could get rid of Robertson and use the money to boost the team in 3 of the positions. I think that's a beneficial bit for it.
We were saying this last week, JP, that surely Saka's going to come good at some point. And it's going to be typical in it, Chris. The week you get off him,
that's it. I mean,
start getting the points.
Yeah. I mentioned that podcast I was listening to earlier, Hull Net the Hull, and they were saying Fulham's weakness is kind of the positions that Saka picks up. So you'll more likely see Saka involved in the attacking side this week coming against Fulham than you have done in the previous weeks, where teams have been kind of going down the left-hand side with Zinchenko, Saka, and then Jesus going out to that side. This week you'll probably see it more down the other side with Saka drifting out wide and Jesus going out that way as well. So we'll see how it goes from that side. JP will be able to tell us how it all looks live anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm slightly terrified because I'm just thinking, am I jinxing it somehow, me turning up? Which is not what conventionally logical people think. But no, it's a tough. I mean, I think with that game of the weekend, I just think there'll be goals in it, but I can see Fulham scoring. It's part of the reason when it comes to my wild card. I've got Zinchenko in there at the moment, but I'm very tempted to ship him out and possibly even go with like an extra midfielder, like an Odegaard or someone like that. I was going to bring in an Arsenal option, but I think it's, if you just look at the run of fixtures that they have, we've got a good few games before they face Man United away, and we don't know what version of Man United, what that version of Man United is going to be. It's going to be a very different prospect from Liverpool with that kind of pedestrian midfield. And I think that's it. It's whether or not is this a side that's going to sort of make hay while the sun shines. And then naturally, it's Arsenal, it'll all go horribly wrong. And it sounds like the World Cup is the perfect place for Arsenal's season to completely fall apart. But that's going to be the interesting one. It's also as well, because you've got a Neto, whether or not they're going to go all out and try and buy a Neto or fit Neto in there at some stage, which...
I think because the season... the games are literally going to be, everybody's going to be playing at the top end of the table anyway. A Saturday game, a midweek game, a Saturday game fairly soon with the European games and that sort of thing coming in. So you are going to get a lot of rotation in there, whether they bring somebody else in or if they kind of shift around Tierney and Tomiyasu and push Zinchenko up forward and that sort of thing.
There's that part of me wonders whether or not, I mean, Ben White probably had his best game at right back. He would I know he didn't get the assist for the Odegaard goal, which was, I mean, when Benno pointed that out in the group chat, I did have a laugh. I felt like an arsehole doing that because ultimately it was all worked out well for me. But he certainly looked better as a kind of attacking force. But Arsenal are much stronger when they got Tomiyasu down there in there as well. And there'll come points like with Saliba. I know a lot of people have gone in for Saliba because he's relatively cheap. I think there is going to come a point where they're going to take him out for a couple of games.
Yeah, I think he drops out and White moves in. And then, I think that'd be the way.
With Zinchenko, it's the other one about whether or not, and I know Xhaka has seemed like a decent option because he's been sort of much more heavily involved, certainly around
Yeah.
the penalty area, the couple of assists and whatnot. It's whether or not is he going to be rested. They're going to move Zinchenko into midfield.
Yeah.
That's kind of option with that in order to fit Kieran Tierney in, who is kind of fit at this stage. And I think there's a point where he wants to get a few more of them involved before Europe happens, just so they're not going into that Europa League games kind of completely undercooked.
Yeah, because it's weird with Arsenal at the moment because they're not really playing a left back in that Zinchenko and Xhaka are kind of just like rotating in the position without really playing there. So when they play a more attacking team, they are going to need Tierney in there to play left back. But when they're able to get on the attack and stay on top of teams, Zinchenko can go and Xhaka can drop in. Or, you know, if Xhaka's already gone, Zinchenko just kind of stays sort of thing. They're both kind of playing the same position and trying to maneuver around each other. And I don't know how long that will be sustainable against teams that can hold the ball and, you know, hold the ball against Arsenal and play a bit better against them. So that'll be an interesting one to try and monitor and figure out what they're going to do in that bit. But the thing, at least with Zinchenko, is, you know, that Zach is at least going to get himself sent off once every 4 weeks. So he's going to play a couple of games in there at least. So, you know, you've always got that going for it. I was just going to say on...
he's got 4 red cards in his Premier League career. Son has 3.
Yeah.
And Son is portrayed as like some sort of angel in this, where Xhaka is the devil incarnate.
Not to my Sadie, when she was on here before, you should have asked her about Son. Hates him.
Big fan. Oh, no,
absolutely hates Son. He crocked Andre Gomez, her favourite Everton player, so that's nearly snapped his foot off.
Andre Gomez.
Off clean, so Son is a hate figure in my daughter's eyes.
Oh. Well, before we get into the wild cards, any other thoughts on the weekend's action? Any other games stand out? Any other talking points we haven't really covered?
Brighton are doing well, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm thinking if you're wanting some cheap players there, like defenders, Veltman, Bobby Sanchez, Dunk. Yeah, they may be a team to look at for players. Obviously, like Brentford lost, but they've got a good run, aren't they?
You see a lot of Trossard being mentioned.
I love Trossard.
Yeah, Trossard, yeah.
Trossard and McAllister, if you're looking at a cheap guy, because he takes the penalties.
Danny Welbeck as well. Danny Welbeck as well is a good
last pick in the draft for me, Andy. He was still available in that last round. Proud of that. Well, he's the only playing striker, but still.
He didn't help you, but we'll get into that later, Ben.
It was close, mate. It was close, but yeah.
There's a new Brighton defender coming in that they're expecting to be their starting left back.
Estupiñán, from Villarreal.
Yeah, and he's only like 4.5 million. So he could be one to keep an eye on for when he starts getting in the team.
Very attacking player as well. Is one who I've had half an eye on if he starts, because saw him quite a bit for Villarreal, and I know he's played in England before, hasn't he? So he sort of knows what he's going to expect.
And Brighton do have attacking wing backs like Lamptey and Veltman and sort of thing. They are, you know, decent attacking threats as well as being fairly good for a clean sheet, Brighton, for their position in the league. So definitely want to get on your watch lists.
I'd also like to mention 17-year-old Irish striker Evan Ferguson, who scored from in the League Cup. Stick your Haaland. That's what I'm saying.
If only there was
the man to go with. It was yesterday's man.
Is a hate figure for me, JP. I tried to sign him on loan for Carlisle on my football manager last week, and he refused to join me and joined a team lower down the league than me. I was good. He was going to solve my striking crisis, but wasn't up for it. The little shit.
Wasn't up for it.
It's always like that with those games. It's like when I used to play EWR and I booked like a Brit Res promotion and signed Cy Valor, who I knew. And then anytime I'd see him in real life, I'd be like, "Why aren't you getting over, mate? Like, why am I booking in your foods? I'm giving you all these segments. You're just not getting." I'd just see him slightly differently. He was just a constant disappointment for me.
Sophie says you're shit.
I wonder who Sophie was. It was like a model, wasn't it?
I was a porn star, I believe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
He's a dodgy one, that Riley, but we've been through that.
Oh, yeah.
His book naked matches.
Did we want to touch on the Mason Mount stuff? Was it Chris?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, let me just share that screen.
I definitely have opinions on Mount while Chris is getting his information up, whatever. Like he just, whether it's a gut feel thing or not, I don't know. But he always feels to me like, I think I said this in our group chat as well. Like he's a player. If you're going to have him, you've just got to have him and just stick with him, because there's no point trying to predict his matches for me. That because he could. He has these random weeks where he hauls, but it could be against Man United, it could be against Man City, as equally as it could be against Bournemouth or whoever. So
this is from game week 23 last season. He got injured for 4 weeks, and then obviously, as you just saying, it's feast or famine. Like big return, 16 points, and then 3 points, nothing, 2 points, 19 points, 4 points, 5 points, 1 point. 13 points. So, as you say, he's either banging them in or he's not. This season, obviously, 3 points, 2 points, 2 points, which is obviously lower than expected. Not got a big haul kind of expected coming in, 5 points there. So you're kind of looking at probably an assist or a goal in some of those games. Like Leicester, Southampton, West Ham, Fulham, and then Liverpool. Heat maps kind of show.
The interesting one with him is, for me, is going to be if they sign Aubameyang and what impact that has. Because then, if they're playing with a proper striker instead of Havertz, then what does that mean for Mount? Does he stay in that front three? Does he go deeper and play in the midfield a bit more? But at the end of the day, like he was number 14 last year in terms of points per game, like in the whole game. So and it was like 5 points a game average. So he's just going to tick. He's just going to tick over. But
that's it. If you're okay, I don't think it's okay having him at 8 million though, just to have him ticking over, sort of thing. When others, I'll click on the bits in a minute. When others are kind of hauling a bit more, as you say, like 0.2 expected goals, 0.2 expected assists. So. Not exactly great there. The heat map kind of shows he's not in the danger area very often. He takes long shots. That's his thing, isn't it? He shoots from distance.
He's like a Chelsea James Ward-Prowse, isn't he?
I think in a way, I think that's a fairly decent shout in terms of that. And then, so I've got him versus Saka here. So Mount's in the blue, Saka's in the red. So you can see Saka's expected to get more assists, and BCC, which is something else.
He's
also most expected to be in the Blackpool Combat Club is but Mount has more touches, takes more shots, same shots in the box, but and then you've got more
fake. BJJ just isn't the same as
no, that's it. Yeah. So, as you can see, Saka's obviously kind of more, I'd say more on the ball and more on one side. As we were touching on earlier, the game against Fulham, where Fulham are weak at left back, he'll be playing more with the ball, I think, this week coming up. And I think Saka's stats so far are all kind of looking better this season for him. And
he takes pens as well, doesn't he, Saka? And Mount doesn't. Is that right?
Arsenal haven't had a penalty yet, so but yeah, the assumption is that he's going to take more, take him ahead of Jesus at least, it seems. So yeah, Kulusevski there. Chances created and assists are heavily in favour of Kulusevski, whereas shots are more Mount sort of thing. So similar sort of stats. Well, Kulusevski's obviously got the more points, 18 points over 7, but he's, as you expect what you get from a lot of Spurs players, highly over his expected points. So he's only expected to have 13 and he's got 18, whereas Mount's expected to have 11.5 and he's got 7, which kind of shows the underperformance of the Chelsea team, I guess, as a whole anyway. So
do you have this? Do you have your gut players? Because, like, for me, like, I know Kulusevski did well last season. I know his points per game was excellent and things, but I just have this nagging gut feel of like, well, he can't keep that up. Like,
no.
and my brain, all these stats, I'm looking at all that and I'm like, that's brilliant. That's like, if this was blind and you had nothing else on there, I'd be looking at this and being like, well, of course you put him in your team, but because I know who it is, my brain just goes, can't keep that up, no chance.
It's unconscious bias, isn't it? So, well, probably not unconscious bias, it's just bias, I suppose. Luis Diaz versus Mount. They're basically this. in a lot of places kind of similar, but Diaz is better in the areas that Mount is best at, if that makes sense. You know, shots, big chances, shots in the box, shots on target, shots as a whole. You know, it all kind of leans towards Diaz over Mount.
But Liverpool are a more expansive team than what Chelsea are, aren't they? Going forward,
Yeah.
So I'd expect him. He should have more, to be honest, Luis Diaz compared to Mount.
Yeah. So in that case, you know, you might as well sub out Mount and get Luis Diaz in.
Yeah,
it's the same player.
Isn't it?
Yeah. You know, other stats are all leaning towards Luis Diaz as well. He's actually, I thought he played a bit more central than his heat map shows, but Luis Diaz kind of plays a lot on the left. On there.
Do you think it carries on for Diaz with Liverpool, Gareth? Obviously, you know, we got a couple of games. Darwin's back. You know, Jota potentially coming back and being involved. Does the system change up at all? Is minutes a threat?
I mean, he's going to get. There's going to be games where he doesn't start 100%. But again, I've said I just don't fancy him as a goal scorer. I don't believe that he's going to get 15 goals. I just don't think he's got that in him. It just doesn't look like his game at all. Like he's a bit of a rich man's Anthony Gordon to me. Like I think he looks dangerous. He's close control. He's dribbling. You know, like he looks a threat. End product, I've still got to be convinced on it. Like, yeah, I know I said that in our chat, and then he popped up with the fucking goal against the equaliser against Palace. But like, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't ever see him being like a Mane on that side and getting the volume of goals he doesn't look deadly in the box at all.
Yeah, I mean the stats so far: 7 shots on target, 7 shots in total, 3 on target. 6 of the 7 shots were in the box. 3 of them were on target. So the one that he scored is the one that he scored he took from outside the box. But when you're thinking he's taking 6 of his 7 shots from inside the box, he's going to have a high XG because obviously the closer you are to the goal, the more expected the shot would be to go in, sort of thing. So the stats would show that you'd expect him to score quite a bit if he's continually shooting from close in. That's why Son scores so much. Son and Kane score so much because they don't shoot from far out. They shoot from, you know, penalty box to 6-yard box. That's basically the area they take the bulk of their shots from. And the early stats would indicate that Diaz is going to be in that sort of area when he's taking his shots.
Does that stat there, Chris, say is that the XG is 0.9? So in essence. His XG is a goal a game. But he's actually given 0.3. That feels about right to me. Like you'd expect him to score, but he needs 3 chances to score. That probably feels about right, which is why I never feel like he's going to get the volume of goals because he doesn't look clinical at all.
Yeah, that's it. But if he's getting the chances, you know, it's most likely that he'll continue getting in. He'll probably get into double figures. I'd have thought this year. At least. And then the last one's just James Maddison, who basically the same areas as Mount, but Maddison is currently really outdoing them on shots on target and shots in the box. Is a free kick taker as well. That's about it, really. So if you're going off how it's gone so far, I'd probably say Luis Diaz or Kulusevski, then Maddison, and then Saka. It's looking like, but I think they're all better options than Mount. So yeah, move on from Mount.
The short answer is
he's shipping him off.
Yeah.
Well, to that question, I was going to ask Chris, like, are you keeping that 8-odd million slot in your wildcard team going forward? I don't know if you want to take us through that. Like
if you want to pop.
I've had that. Like Kulu was initially on mine. As far as like my 8 million player, he became Diaz at a point. I'm now looking at like for my version, I haven't got an 8 million odd player. I'm thinking of going Kulu up front, thinking of using that money in defence. But you going Kulu, are you at the minute?
Yeah, as it stands, it's between Kulu or Diaz. I'm also wondering if Perisic is going to play 2 games in a row.
He was limping last week, weren't he?
Yeah, and my thought is I could maybe move that down to something else. And maybe just wait on that. Ideally, I'm waiting for Doherty to get back into the team. I'm loving the fact that his price is falling at the minute. I
saw that this week.
When he's down to 4.6 or whatever, and he comes back in, jumping straight on that because I'm sure he'll go straight back in over Emerson Royale. But yeah, as it stands, I'm moving into Edison. I think Gareth was saying last week, you might as well just go for the set and forget like keeper for Man City. Like he's going to play every game, isn't he? So I'm happy with that. Sticking with Trent, sticking with Cancelo, sticking with Zinchenko. Perisic is the one that I'm thinking on. Sticking with James as well because I can't see them not reverting him back to playing on the wing. And he's dangerous there. Getting Martinelli in, which I was saying last week, if I had 2 free transfers, I could have moved Saka down to Martinelli and Grealish over to Gundogan, and I wouldn't have had to wild card this week because I'd be where I am now, basically. That was a bit of a mistake on my part. Obviously, keeping Salah, Kuleski, Gundogan. I'm a massive fan of Gundogan, and he's the captain now, as we were discussing. So I think he'll play a lot. He was also elected by the team to be the captain, so it kind of feels like the team expect him to be. The players want him on the pitch all the time. It feels like
Bernardo his biggest threat as far as like taking that spot up.
No, I think they kind of play well together, kind of in like the double pivot, don't they? And then they've got Calvin Phillips, I guess, to come on and switch in the other games. And then I think Cole Palmer sometimes gets a run out in that sort of position as well. Obviously it's City, so he won't play every game. But
I like that thinking though, because if you are going to go City, you can spend 11.5 million on Haaland, and he might play every game. He might not. Sounds like he's probably not. But that's an 11.5 million player. What's Gundogan right now? 7 point something? Like
7.6, I think he is now. Yeah, so
it's more acceptable, isn't it? Less. It's a lower ceiling, but it feels more acceptable.
I say it's funny that Kevin De Bruyne has not even been mentioned in a lot of teams.
Yeah. There's one of the people I've watched regularly, FPL mate. He's had. He's gone De Bruyne over Salah all season long. He is currently 5.5 billionth in the world, but I think it's the decisions around that have. I think if you'd have started with KDB over Salah, I think you wouldn't be that bad off. I think they're fairly equal so far. So
the interesting one for me that's not mentioned is Foden, because obviously we went through the 8 millions there, where you were looking at your Saka's, Kulusevski's, Mounts, Diaz.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think to go on.
And like Foden is someone who, the 2 City games I've seen, he's been a right greedy bastard, and he should have just squared it for Haaland twice in 2 separate. And Guardiola fumed both times he's done it. And like, this is where you're watching stuff and you're reading into it, and I'm thinking Guardiola's pissed off there. He's either pissed off that he hasn't passed to Haaland and it's going to affect his chances, or he's thinking, I just have to tell that lad to just pass it to fucking Haaland, and then there you go. Yeah. You're getting 2 assists in that situation. And given how frequently he's played, I think I said last time, I think he'd played something like 95% of City's games after Christmas, like last year. Yeah. He was one of the most regular starters. I think Foden's the one I battle with the most. Like, I think I feel like I should have him. He's got a haul in him, and I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing.
I don't have the courage of my convictions.
It's for me, it's also the thing because I had him last season, but you're basically waiting on the team sheet to know if you're going to have a good FPL week. And I don't know because I still think he's a bit of a minutes risk at certain points. So we'll see. I mean, I can pull his stats up if we wanted to go into it, but I think he's a viable option. But Gundogan feels like he's going to be fairly nailed at this point, so I'm happy to go with that. And he gets a lot of returns. He scored against Newcastle as well, didn't he? So, and then I've just got the plain bench really: Ward, Tony, Andreas Pereira, and Stansfield, who's also from Fulham. He's getting a lot of game time, it seems, at the minute. So,
Marla,
season 4, that's gonna like
vicious
horrible, man. He plays a nice bloke, doesn't he, in the latest David Sam? But speaking of celebrities, James Toney there. First up, I'm in the same position. I'm probably going to end up with 12 players. I want to start. It's almost the season where you don't want to do that. Like, not like is that'll hurt that.
My thinking,
playing Everton at home and then being on the bench.
Well, my thinking is,
I was going to say, what's he thinking?
If Perisic doesn't play, Tony comes on. If Gundogan doesn't play, Tony comes on. Yeah, I mean that's the risk, isn't it? But it's particularly with the 3 games coming up in a week, and then we'll be like, it's kind of like some of these people will miss. I thought would miss a game, so Tony won't miss a game. He'll play all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
So at least knowing, I've got 2 guys that are coming on that can come on and get something, at least 2 points minimum sort of thing.
2 guys, he's still playing.
I wish. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the thinking at the minute. Also, as I was saying, I was kind of thinking of the bench boost, but you never know. Maybe not 2 guys at Arsenal away. So I'm fairly happy with that. I think it's solid. The one thing is no premium striker. So I'd have to get two transfers together, and then downgrade, Kuleski down to a 4 million mid or something, and then Tony up to Kane or Haaland or sort of thing. But we'll see how it goes.
To be honest, that's not too bad a thing, not having a premium striker, because your Jesus and Tonys have probably got the same points as Haaland and Kane, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the moment. I mean, Tony will obviously fade away a bit as it goes on. I expect Jesus to kind of keep pace with Kane and Haaland as the season goes on. So we'll see where that goes. But I mean, Tony to Mitrovic, you can kind of swap out as well. But Brentford at the minute, top of the table in terms of games coming up. Fulham are quite a way down.
You can give it a few weeks, can't you? Maybe like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, so I mean, once you get to like game week, 9, Fulham are at the top of the table. Newcastle, West Ham, that sort of thing. So when it gets to that stage, I can swap them out week 7, week 8, swap from Tony to Mitrovic, and then go with the easier games.
Yeah, I'm thinking
looking really strong, that Chris. I think it looks a good decision.
Thank you. I think it should work out. That's Twitter. You don't need to do that. That's all good.
Don't get those DMs on screen, mate. Be careful. I'm always terrified of that. JP, do you want to throw yours up next?
I will have a look on here. Just bear with me for 1 second.
Well, do you want me to throw mine up?
So, I mean, hopefully that Mason Mount thing helped out. I think for who asked the question and stuff. So, if we do get any other queries like that, I can bring them up in the future.
Good man.
As my computer decides to freeze at this point in time, I can just see like a frozen look on my face.
I think I might just be like randomly just turning up at Chris's house with a few cans one day and just knocking on the door. just get some data up and we'll just sit and look at it.
This is porn to you,
I should be a game for it.
I mean,
it's 36 quid annually. I got the offer that they were doing because it was like 50% off before the start of the season. So you pay like £3 a month or 36 quid straight off or whatever.
So at the moment, I have to talk you through.
I'll be in your DMs.
I'll shoot you the password or whatever.
JP, I've got mine up. If you want to send me a screenshot of yours, maybe I can throw it up.
I've just done it now. I think I've just shared it on here now of what it is at the moment. So this is here it is. This is the team at the moment. This is obviously very much subject to change. I've got Edison in goal because I just can't be angsting over City defenders.
That's a bloody good team, that.
Looking across the back four, Zinchenko, Perisic, Trent and Trippier. Midfield, Martinelli, Salah, Rodrigo, Tony J. I've gone big. The only thing I'm anxious about is the premium striker option because my temptation is actually to bring in Gundogan. So I just think he's going to be playing, like Chris said, he's going to be playing all of these games. I could use that to perhaps strengthen my bench. I put Almiron in there. I think Almiron is worth a punt as a weird differential around 5 million because he seems to be very, very popular. He seems to play a lot. This might be the time he gets in goals, but if you go by statistics on this of previous seasons, it never really looks quite that way. Andreas, Nico Williams are there as well. I've got I don't know why I've got Sanchez in there. He'll clearly be like, I think it's just in case something happens to Edison that there's like a good solid choice to go in there for that week. So I've gone more heavy on the attack options and less some around that midfield. But I just also think Rodrigo is going to carry on a bit of that goal scoring form for Leeds. I wouldn't trust a Leeds defender with my life.
Well, I read earlier that Bamford could be back on weekend.
Well, Bamford didn't play in the League Cup game, so I don't think he's ready yet. I also don't see how Bamford could get in over Rodrigo. Like, Rodrigo's playing like lights out at the minute. He's, a really good part of that Leeds team. I think it'd be difficult you wouldn't want to risk it. And I don't know if Bamford kind of plays that high press as well as Rodrigo. I've not really looked into it, but Rodrigo's been doing really well.
To be honest, is it the worst time for Leeds to cash in on Bamford? You'd make a few quid. Maybe somewhat of a busted flush if Rodrigo's going to be for the kind of game that Jesse Marsh wants him to play, and he looks like a manager who, if he carries on this form and just gets them to the safety relatively seamlessly, he'll be there for a while. So I was tempted by Jack Harrison as well, because I know he's only 6 million, and again, Leeds going forward do have something about them very much at the moment as well. It's for me, the big thing is Newcastle if they get Isak, and it's like, how much does he come in for?
Well, it looks like he's signing for him. He's passed the medical today. 58 million.
58 million. I mean, Callum Wilson's taken a knock, hasn't he, on the ankle? And he's, if nothing else, he's injury prone. But it's also about how it affects the rest of that team in terms of a much more mobile centre forward as well. I mean, that's a serious decision from them.
They've just massively upgraded Chris Wood, basically.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
He's not a goal scorer, though. That's the thing. Like, it feels like a lot of money, that, to me, for somebody who, again, is another needs 6 chances to score a goal. That lad.
Swedish Andy Carroll, then, is he?
Is a less productive Andy Cole, I would say. I don't know. It feels a risk at that price. Rodrigo for me there, JP. This will be your Martinez with me for this season, because Rodrigo is my classic in my brain. He's had his points already. He ain't keeping this up, and it's another. My brain says that, but he won't. He'll be a Lundstrom or something like that who keeps hauling, or Martinez or something like that, keeps it going over the course of the season, and you can have a little wry smile on your face every week when Rodrigo chips one in, knowing that I won't. Have him in my team.
But then I was the same with Rafinha last year. I just refused to do that. But it feels to me that he's very much taken up that mantle, and I'm fine with going for the Poundland version of Rafinha. Is very harsh on Rodrigo. Really, but, I mean,
keeps his place though.
I think he looked good as well. Aronson, was it Aronson, the American lad? Yeah, he looked.
And he's
5
million as well. I mean, it's a weird one to work out, because obviously I just wouldn't trust a Leeds defender at all.
No,
I mean, that's pretty much a good life rule, I suppose, coming back from 70s, that one. But at the same time, like, going forward, there's enough interesting options. Interesting to see if Dan James goes to Spurs. That's something that seems to be very heavily linked.
Yeah. I don't see what people see in Dan James. I don't think he's how many chances he seems to get. But then I don't seem to understand that Gordon move from Everton to Chelsea either for 60 million or whatever they're being
Chelsea holding again, isn't it?
Mate, you could have made Morgan Gibbs White up to me, and I have no. He costs the same money as Jesus at the end of it.
Yeah.
Or he's a Conservative MP. He's one of the two.
Have you got any money left in the bank, JP? Because mine's
I think I've
similar
got
to yours, but I haven't got a.
If I go to the transfers, I think I've got 500,000 left. No, I've got 1 million left.
1 million.
Yeah, because like I'll show you mine. 'Cause it's so similar to yours, to be honest. That it's basically the same team. Great minds think alike, JP. But yeah, with me, so that's the squad as it stands, and it's very similar, but Rodrigo would be fair sub for me. I wouldn't be starting him, so I don't know whether it's the money I've got in the bank or what. If anything, I'm considering binning off because I'm not going to play him. But at the minute, Warden, Sanchez, maybe that's where I'm making that saving. As far as I will go, and Brighton for a goalie, as we talked about earlier. Perisic's still in there. Trent, Walker, Cancelo are staying in there. Zinchenko is new to my lot. Martinelli, and then I've got De Silva, Rodrigo, and Andreas Pereira as kind of the 3 low-priced midfielders that are probably going to make up my bench. Salah stuck with, and yeah, as I say, for all my talk, Trent and Salah are still in the squad. Bournemouth are home. What can you say? And then same as you, yeah, Jesus, Tony, and I've gone Kane up front as opposed. That could be Haaland by the time we get there. Maybe I'll get the other kind of version of this team is me getting brave and going with De Bruyne and having Mitrovic as the third striker, and maybe just going for him early. Because of the price rises, I might be slightly priced out of that right now, so I might need to make some adjustments in defense. But the problem, the balance I've kind of found hard is like I keep finding myself with almost too strong a bench, and it's like it feels like it's just the wrong season for that. It feels like it isn't worth having 6.3 million tied up in your first sub. Maybe I should be going for like a 4.5 million player there, upgrading somewhere else. It's almost hard to use the money this year, I think, in some ways. So yeah, that's kind of where I've gone. I've had 27 different variations on this team, like I say, and it's been back and forth. The Chelsea defenders were, I had James has been in there from the start. He might still make an appearance there. He's been in and out. Maybe I should do the same as you two guys, and Ederson should be in there. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know how happy I am with it. Really, it's more a case of like, am I making changes now that I've hit that wildcard button? And am I making changes for the sake of making changes? Am I trying to go as far away from my original team as possible? Or am I repeating mistakes? Like Gareth, you said last week you were trying to consider between Son and Kane, and went the Son route, and I've been moaning about having Son for the last 3 weeks, and looking at my wild card, I basically just replaced him with Kane. Is that smart? Should I be going a completely different direction? I've been everywhere with this wild card.
I'm interested to see you go with the 3 strikers, because I know typically you're like me and you don't value strikers as much as your draft team's the prime example of that, isn't it? Of like going for your defenders and your midfielders first. Like, so I'm surprised to see you go full 3, but then I suppose the value that you got in Jesus and Tony, it's sort of, it's tempting. Like I say last week there, when I had that Son Kane thing, it was probably my lack of desire to have 3 strikers that probably turned me away from that. But when you look at that, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like it
What's changed, Gareth, is like I in my head I had a template where it was like, especially at the start of the season when it was like there's going to be no good strikers again, all your money goes in midfield, and my first couple of wildcard drafts had that 8 million player in there, all the candidates we just talked about, and then I just started to kind of realize like I don't feel confident about any of them. So why is that position in my team? Why am I holding a space up for Kulu or Diaz when I could literally use that money to get to, like I say, have Tony, Jesus, and Kane up front and keep Trent in the back? Yeah. And if anything, I'm looking at a 5-2-3 at this point, and I would never have considered doing that at the start of the season. You're absolutely right. I mean, it only takes a couple of game weeks if Kulu bangs over the next couple of weeks, or Diaz does, or Maddison does, or Mount does, any of those candidates, Foden, does. I might look a bit foolish, but right now, none of them are filling me with confidence. So it was like, well, I don't need the position. I don't need to play more than 2 midfielders. I can go without.
It's funny because then if you are thinking along that mindset of like the 5-2-3, then there's possibly an argument for not having Rodrigo or Martinelli and going, actually, I'm going to get a
Salah and Sterling or
Alisson or Edison even instead of like a Sanchez or something, maybe 3 City defenders, for example, something like that. If City get a clean sheet and you're suddenly banking 20 points there,
Rodrigo is purely, I've got 2 million in the bank to use. Like, he could easily be a 4.3 or I think 4.4 is the cheapest midfielder right now. He could be any of those players. I'd be happy with Andreas Pereira being first sub, to be honest. Based on the way the game's going this year, it's unlikely he's going to get on the pitch anyway. But if he does, Fulham are looking all right. He'll probably be involved. Do I necessarily need to spend that money? Yeah, that's kind of the weird position we're finding ourselves in this.
I mean, like you say, you could easily do Rodrigo down to cheap and then Walker up to Robertson, or Edison in goal. Yeah, if you're looking at going short in midfield. The thing you always got to think with that though is strikers, like if they don't get a goal or an assist, it's only 2 points sort of thing. If you're playing 3 strikers sort of thing. Whereas if you're playing more in midfield, like they get bonus points for clean sheets, more likely to get bonus points in a game that's 0-0 because they're creating the chances and they're getting the stats that bump up the bonus point system sort of thing. So so 3 up top can be difficult if they're not returning sort of thing.
So,
but
the other route I've considered doing is going down from Tony to Mitrovic already, and then using that extra money, I could bump up Rodrigo through a Zaha, and then I can play the Hokey with them too. Because I don't know what it is about Tony. It's like I just feel anytime Mitrovic has been in that position in my squad, I've felt more comfortable. You know what I mean? It just feels
Mitrovic,
more right. Yeah. Tony feels more of a gamble. Yeah.
Mitrovic this season as well seems to be. He doesn't seem to be afraid to bully defenders like he was last year in the Premier League in the Championship. Like the winner that he scored last week, where he just like leans on he finds the small man. The small defender and just leans on him and just towers over him and gets the header for the winner sort of thing. I think was missing from him the last time he was in the Premier League. Tony seemed all right, took his chance really well, and I think when they get Damsgaard in and he starts playing, might get a few more chances as well. So I think they'll both be interesting options. Tony's got the games like we showed, and then it switches to Mitrovic. Well, whichever way you go, I think De Silva's. I wouldn't say a waste because he's only 4.6, but I don't think he's going to get any more points in the same manner as he has already.
It's one of them. I looked at is there a 4.4 out there I could get and say the 0.2? Yes, but for the sake of 0.2, I still think he's a better option than anyone at that level.
Yeah, that's it. If there's a postponement or something, and he plays, you don't worry about him playing, sort of thing, I suppose. But I wouldn't get him in expecting him to get another goal or whatever this half of the season.
The other thing I was just going to say, this isn't a team I've got up on screen. It's not a legitimate wild card. This is me Moneyball wild card. This is what it actually is right now. Everybody on that screen, I think with the exception of Walker, has gone up 0.1 in this last game. And I'm hoarding them on the off chance I might want one of them. Because if I don't, I'm going to literally, like I said at the top of the show, I'd lose like $1.5 million in team value. It is it was more like a lesson I was going to say to people. If you are thinking of pulling the trigger on a wild card, probably not this coming week or the with the midweek game weeks. Go early, and it's a bit of a pain in the arse keeping track of these price rise websites. But I could easily have found myself in a position where later in the week I decide, you know what, I do want Rodrigo after all. He's gone up. Well, it looks like he's going up 0.2 this week. As far as players go, so I could easily between him and say a Nico Williams going up. If I decided in the end I wanted him, I could be easily priced out of that very, very quickly. I've never seen a season like it. It is absolutely insane as far as the rises go. I don't know what you put it down to, Chris. Whether it's just more engagement or people panicking, but it's been it's a crazy week, and this week's probably not going to be the only one where it's going to be like this.
Yeah, I think it's the lower prices have kind of helped engagement. I think for a lot of players, because I think we kind of touched on it. We said it in the chat, didn't we? I was just kind of I think that because it's easier to get to other named players because the prices are kind of structured in that way. It's kind of keeping people in the game as opposed to usually where once you've picked your team and you're a couple of weeks in, you kind of struggle into get to other places. And I think because a lot of stars haven't really performed yet, people are, a bit trigger happy and making transfers and that sort of thing. So, it's an interesting one. Didn't realise our Leeds' fixtures were quite so positive as well. So, Rodrigo would be a good one if he maintains that position. I think. Yeah,
he seems to be the current IWC pick. Is what I'd say about him. But looking at the fixtures there, the last 5, the next 5 on screen, it's probably mainly 4 and 5 we've got to concern ourselves with at the moment. But what are we all thinking captaincy wise going forward, or are there any moves anyone who's not on a wild card is considering making?
I think Salah's the obvious one for captain this week, isn't it? Against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, Wednesday, who they got? Newcastle. You honestly, if you think Haaland's playing on Tuesday, you just lump the captaincy on him against Forest. Apart from that,
is anyone considering going against Salah this week? Anybody going anywhere wild for with the captaincy, or is it that simple? Salah at home to Bournemouth.
It seems like a no-brainer. Bournemouth, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't really go against Salah against Newcastle either, given those games there. Because I mean, what maybe Jesus versus Villa. What else have we got? Nothing really. Yeah, well, Haaland would be an obvious one if he does start against Forest, but it doesn't sound like he will. Yeah, that's about it, really, isn't it? In terms of your top choices. If it depends if West Ham turn up next week, but obviously, if not, Kane or Son could be an option.
Well, them games are always 3-3s and 4-3s, aren't they? The West Ham Tottenham games are notorious for.
Well, that's good for Kane or Son.
Yeah,
so that'd be all right. Yeah. But yeah, looking on the Fantasy Football Hub, their captain poll, 75% on that is for Salah. That's out of 620 votes. So,
how many for Jesus?
He's 53 votes, 8.55%. So he's the second highest, then Kane, then De Bruyne, then Haaland, then Son.
Jesus is the only other one I'd consider. I'd be like, maybe if I was going to try and, make up some ground and bet against the crowd a little bit, I'd be tempted to go with that. Fulham at home, there'll be goals in it. But it's whether he has another week like, this past week, like JP was saying, involved in everything, but then unfortunately fruitless at the end numbers-wise.
Trent's got to be an option.
I could be
based on Chris's stats previously.
Yeah, could be one to go against the crowd with.
Yeah, but who's he setting up? Setting up Salah, isn't he? So if Trent gets 3 assists, 2 of them are going to Salah, and that I'd have thought.
Definitely. Well, before we go, we're gonna have a quick look at the draft. But I think you're gonna jump off, JP. Are we doing?
I do have to jump off. It's been lovely seeing you. I'm bottom of the draft. It's gone horrendously wrong. I'm trying to make some trades. They'll probably all go, and those trades will go badly wrong. I need some people to start properly. Like looking at you, John Stones. Like just, it's ridiculous. Lads, it's been brilliant as always. Thank you.
Yep. Good to see you, JP.
See you later, guys.
See you later.
Cheers.
There we go. We're transferring out our star striker there in JP. So off goes. He wouldn't like it if I called him Harry Kane. He can be Jesus. On comes, I don't know, Jamie Vardy. He's a Leicester supporter.
The devil himself.
Billy Curling. I will. I believe you're here to brag, are you, mate?
Yes, but before we brag about my, epic victory over a certain fellow Loughborian, could we have a look at my main league side? Because this may be the only time I have anything to brag about in the main league. Because last year I was abysmal, and I gave up quite quickly, and it just became like a like a zombie ghost ship type team. But I played my wild cards. Andy gave me faith that playing wild cards early is the thing to do, and I had some advice from Andy and yourself, Benno. And what
sounds like a mistake.
Smash it. I mean, the only thing that could have gone better for me this last week in the main league is if I'd have played Trippier, because I did the thing of being a coward and hiding all my Newcastle players, thinking Man City would pump them like they did last season. But other than that,
81.
81. 81. And look, all my defenders get 1, and I've got Kieran on 6 on the subs bench. To give you some stats, I've got the stats up here. So the week before, I was in like the 7 millionth part of the overall table. I've jumped up more than 2.5 million places overall.
Bloody hell. Gameweek ranked 21,000 for the week.
Jesus.
That's amazing. We're all 2 million.
That's it. It's a good run, that.
But the thing is, like, it is incredibly fluky, isn't it? Because you got Rodrigo, Salah. I brought and Kevin De Bruyne, who I had beforehand, and Odegaard. But I bring in Zaha. You actually would have won Benno to tell me to bring in Tony. And yeah, so it just all the kind of gambles I made, all the changes I made, played off. But yeah, no, I mean, literally, this is more points than I had in the 2 previous weeks combined. Like I've literally doubled my more than doubled my points total for the season.
Good Lord.
It's not bad going forward either. It's
So yes, I mean, I think the one thing I might do is I've got the wrong Spurs defender. That should be Emerson.
That's hard with Spurs, though, isn't it? How can you predict which way? Especially with the rotation over the next couple of weeks. No, that might come good. I'm impressed with you. You might well win the main league, but I'll tell you what league you're not going to win, mate. It's the draft. It was an interesting week this week. Bad one for me personally. Good one for one man though. GRAPPL Gareth, top of the league, 9 points, 3 played, 3 won. Jordan keeping pace with you, to be fair, Gareth. But yeah, it's going well, mate.
I told you last week. Word on the street, rumours. There's people talking about this invincible season. There's, you go into your local co-op, you hear people in the aisles talking about it and things like that. It's on the cards.
I'm just laughing. Of course, JP would be last. No wonder he buggered off. Look at that, 0 points. Him and Connor sharing awesome. I'm not doing much better at 3, but yeah, as far as results go, I lost to Andy. That was a close one. We can have a closer look at that.
It was that one. My word, absolutely.
That came right down to the Liverpool United game, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Is it Sancho you had?
Yeah, so I had initially Emmanuel Dennis, who I'd put in my team up front for Forest. He didn't play, and my first sub, it was a late transaction. I stuck Rashford back in, and obviously Mr. School Meals popped up and scored and put me ahead of you, Benno. I was like, fucking getting United.
I was convinced going in. Like I was looking at at my team and thinking, we're on pretty much equal points. I had Luis Diaz. Even though I hadn't gone Salah, I was pretty confident Liverpool were going to do that. But yeah,
I thought you'd won it as well, Benno. Definitely
pulled it out for you as well. So yeah, I was gutted with that. What else did we have in the league? Matty and Gareth. Gareth, you squashed Matty there, 57 points. What was the secret there?
Brighton.
He's still oh, you're muted, sorry, Gareth.
This is where Rodrigo is in my team in the draft. This was my Leeds fan workmate tip off here, but this was the one here of bringing in Veltman. Again, more points from him. Trippier deciding to play Brennan Johnson against Everton. That was a double cheer when he scored against Everton late on in that game as well. But yeah, just consistency across the bunch. The only thing that didn't deliver there was Justin, that was a one that I always like to try and bring in a defender every week to try and nab a clean sheet. I thought Leicester at home to Southampton. That's got to be nailed on. Surely there's points there for Justin, but turns out Leicester are actually just dog shit. Absolutely dog shit.
You're getting no clean sheets from us this season.
So needless to say, Justin's out this week, and I'm even considering a Leeds defender in replacement for him. That's how bad that Leicester defence is.
Well, one thing I was going to say, we've run a bit long, so we won't spend too long on it, but transfer window's closing next week. That's going to be interesting, which free agents drop into the pool, and that might be JP's time to shine. JP and Connor will be cleaning up. Anyone's got their eye on as far as coming in?
It'll be that Isaac and Anthony from Man United, won't it? They're the two big ones. Aubameyang, if he turns up at Chelsea, people will be after him.
How do you think Brett and Diaz will do in the Premier League, Chris? Obviously, with the Blackburn knowledge.
Well, it's Everton, isn't it? They look like they want him, but I don't know. The thing that annoys me is seeing all this money being bandied about for flipping Gibbs White and all this, that, the other, and we're going to have to take 15 million for Brereton Diaz, who's like banging him in for Chile and one of the top scorers in the championship last season. But I think he's fairly similar to Adam Armstrong at Southampton. So maybe it might do it. Yeah, maybe just a little bit better than that. So yeah,
I think the really delicious one is if Jamie gets stuck with a team name that is after a Liverpool player, because there's now these rumours about the John going to a Liverpool rather than Manuel Chelsea.
Will he change it? Will he be too stuck with it?
So first Liverpool takes his daughter, then his draft fantasy football team. Jesus Christ.
And he's dying of non-COVID as well. Like, poor Jamesy. What a week.
One thing I will say, like, I think this week shows why the draft is awesome. And I think having like a major game be the last game of the match week really adds to it. So you were saying, Benno, that yours came down to the last game. And mine and Chris's did. And I've got to say,
I didn't realise you won. I thought Chris beat you.
No, I
won.
Yeah, Ericsson versus Bruno Fernandes, was it?
Yeah. And it was like, this is where I'm being really fluky about it. Oh, you don't think I'd have came on if I'd lost in the draft, do you, Benno? Because like last week, to scrape a victory against JP, I needed Trent Alexander-Armstrong to do nothing. Arnold to do nothing. Arnold, I always make that mistake. I needed him to do nothing, which he did. And then this time, I needed Fernandes to not significantly outpoint Ericsson. And not only does he do basically nothing in the game, he gets a yellow card.
That's it.
It had been like neck and neck through most of the game. And then just as they're preparing to take Ericsson off, Fernandes gets this yellow card, and I know I've won. But yeah, so I've had two quite flaky victories back to back.
I think the draft league does depend on that. A good last game of the weekend, doesn't it? It's a bit like it's not really like it's apples and oranges, isn't it? Like through the week, but when there's that one game and it hinges on it, that's when it gets interesting.
I think Chris and Jamesy was the same as well, actually. So I think in the chat there was like three like draft matches that were live going into that Liverpool Man U game.
Yeah, he had Salah, as he's saying here in the chat. Yeah, he had the second half.
The one thing I do regret with the draft league is I got rid of Sancho because I just thought this Ten Hag Man U was just going to implode. And it looks like it may not now that he looks like he can get rid of Ronaldo. He might even get rid of Maguire. And Sancho is somebody who should work with Ten Hag.
I'm planning on putting him in this week.
So that was a mistake, particularly because I'm going to lose Ronaldo in all likelihood. So I'm going to have to find a new striker. So yeah, I messed up there. I should have prioritized getting rid of Ronaldo over getting rid of Sancho.
What a difference a week makes, eh? How quickly that 4-0 smashing by Brentford's forgotten.
I know. It's insane, isn't it? Well, coming up in the draft, it's me and you, Will, this week, Will. So I should be scared based on that form.
You'll be on again next week, then, Will.
Whether I like it or not.
I went big at the back with my draft team, and like that is such an obvious mistake considering like Garrett's tactic there of bringing defenders in, and I haven't got that option. I don't want to get rid of anyone, so yeah, I think I might have misthought that tactic. But yeah, me and Will, Chris and Jamesy, other Chris Elliott and JP, Jordan and Eddie, Connor and Matty and Gareth against Andy. There you go, little derby there, lads. I don't know. Want to send any threats? Is anyone planning on making any trades? Has anybody sent anybody any dodgy offers this week? Still think you should have took my trade last week, Andy?
No, it's still a week left with Darwin. I'm no centre forward, so he's staying right foot on my bench at the moment. I think it's more my defence. I'm getting rid of Kufal, probably putting someone in for him, and maybe Joel Linton for Sancho. I was looking at.
It's not a bad little move. That's the thing. We can't really say what free agents we're all looking at picking up.
I told you what I'm doing. Oh
well, yeah, we'll check in.
Doesn't matter for me because I've just got last pick. So
yes, to say.
It's hard at the top, is it, Gareth? Yeah,
it is. It's tough.
Same area. Same here. I'm third, so I'm a bit stuck in the same way as Gaz.
Oh well, whoever's listening to this, whoever you heard him say he was going to get there to try and get points on me, get him in, get him signed.
May have been bluffing. Who knows?
Well, talking of it being tough at the top, just before we go, just have a quick look at the GRAPPL League overall and overall FPL. Jack Bird still at the top there, stuck it up for yet another week. Total of 218 points. Pat Houlihan, JP's arch nemesis there in third. Jordan is still in the top 10. Hopefully, we'll have Jordan on here next week to teach us his ways. He's always there or thereabouts, still in the hunt there in eighth. Neil, Neil.
Pat Houlihan, very much the Kerry Von Erich to JP's Chris.
Can we get him at some point?
Carl Gack's doing well.
Carl Gack's there, 16.
Yeah. Super motivated, isn't he, to pay off this ongoing storyline of him being banished from the draft. There's Lindsay there, 17. Jamesy, 18. JP's still in the top 20.
RGS about 30th at the moment, 31st.
Yeah, there he is, 31st. The Blue Jacks. Don's sitting there pretty at 31st. There you are, Andy, 44th. Not doing too bad. I'm 99th. So it's not going
I'm like 122nd, Benno.
That's only just occurred to me that I was 99th last week. I've somehow managed to hold the place. I'm still 99th. There was a point in the game week on live FPL where I was like 30th. But
yeah.
One game it happened, so I think that's probably understandable.
Well, they said Benno, they said the difference between like 100,000th place to like 500,000 place is like 10 points at the moment. So it's somewhat ridiculous. I mean, I'm only like 70 points off the actual top of the overall league. I mean, like 1.3 millionth place.
Mate, you're a triple captain and a bench boost away from it, mate. Just only game week 4 and 5. You'll get there. But yeah, there we go. There's Matty as well, 95th. Oh, Matty's higher than me. That hurts. I want to check what's Matty's team looking like. 60.
Hey, that's good.
Salah captain. He's learning. He's paying attention to the IWC there. Jesus, Kane, Rashford, Nico Williams in defence.
He needs to get rid of Grealish.
Yeah, that'll be his advice. If you listen,
Matty, get Gundogan in instead of Grealish.
So that's it out. But yeah, that's it really. Unless there's anything else you want to mention, Chris.
No, that's everything. I think we touched on everything. As I say, if anybody does want to know random stats and stuff off that site we were looking at earlier, feel free to shoot me a DM or whatever, and I can always send some screenshots over and stuff.
Those data visualizations were very sexy. When I was watching that earlier, I'm in the middle of doing my NHS equality data returns for the trust I work for. So I was like, I wish we had data visualizations like that. So, demographics of the people who work for the health service aren't as important as fantasy football. So the investment is made most important.
Exactly.
Heat maps coming soon to the GRAPPL off, Gareth, maybe, one day. Strike stats, that type of thing. I think there's money in that now.
Hey, I'll settle for the fucker working.
It's a big iceberg.
Next one.
There's a big iceberg for Eagles heat map.
Well, thanks one again for joining us, lads. Like I said, we were live on Twitch tonight. If anyone's listening to the podcast version, if you do fancy the podcast version, like I said, it's over on iTunes now, Spotify, and everywhere else podcasts are sold. The video replay of this will be up on YouTube as well. But yeah, obviously there's 2 game weeks coming up, so we'll have a packed show this time next Thursday. But yeah, good luck to everyone. Have a great couple of game weeks. Yeah, we will catch you again next week.
Beyond the new.
Cheers, Al.
See ya.